everybody would take their seats, I think we are ready to begin now. President Broussard, can you hear us okay now?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, let me know when everyone's sitting down. We'll call the meeting to order.
I'm not the big dog. I'm still vice president. We'll see how that goes.
Good morning again. You're welcome.
I forgot my coffee. I thought I brought.
Just right behind your computer.
See, Nick, if I didn't
President
have-
Broussard, you are
Yeah,
okay
might
to
be a
continue
wreck.
now.
All right, thank you. Well, at this moment, we'll call the meeting to order. Nick, if you'd like to do a roll call, you can proceed.
President Broussard,
Here.
Vice President Cavello,
Here.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Here.
Commissioner Bull,
Present.
Commissioner Schiffer, Commissioner Schiffer appears to be absent at this time. Commissioner Cura.
Here.
Commissioner Francisco.
Here.
Commissioner Wildcat.
Here.
Senator Kolb.
Present.
Representative Davis.
Here.
And Governor's Liaison Tom Lubinaugh. He advised me that he would not be in attendance today. President Broussard, you have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, Nick, you can proceed with the welcome, if you'd like.
I didn't hear it. Were you here?
Commissioner Rithaller's here too. I might have skipped his name.
That makes you feel really well.
President Broussard, would you like me to continue with the welcome?
Yes, please.
Welcome to the March 21st, 2025 special meeting of the Wyoming Gaming Commission. The primary mission of the Wyoming Gaming Commission is the protection of the wagering public and the health, safety, and welfare of all participants in lawful gaming and parimutuel activity. Individuals who wish to address the commission will be recognized and called on by the president to speak. After the president has recognized you, please clearly state your name and the name of the organization you represent prior to addressing the commission. All comments, questions, and responses must flow through the president by addressing the president each time you wish to speak. This procedure ensures an orderly flow of discussion during the commission meeting. All meetings of the governing body of an agency are public meetings open to the public, except as otherwise provided pursuant to Wyoming Statute 16-403A. This meeting is being held via Zoom and is available to watch via live video streaming on YouTube. The commission may open an executive session pursuant to Wyoming Statute 16-405A. Inclusion on the agenda does not necessarily constitute a commission action.
Thank you. So if you guys at this moment would like to join me and stand, I'll start the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. At this point, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Not hearing any, we'll call the vote. All in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, say no. All right, moving on. The consent list. Consent list contains item 4A, item 6A through J, and item 11D. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda unless there's objection.
President Broussard, the consent list would include item 4A, the minutes of the January 17th, 2025 special meeting. Item 6A, Aristocrat software on the Ainsworth platform, one new game theme and the associated math models. Item 6B, Light and Wonder software on the Ainsworth platform, one new game theme and associated math models. Item 6C, AGS software on the Exacta platform, three new game themes and associated math models. Item 6D, Castle Hill software on the Castle Hill platform, three new game themes and associated math models. 6E, Ainsworth software on the Ainsworth platform, two new game themes and associated math models. 6F, Blueberry software on the Exacta platform, three new game themes and associated math models. 6G, Incredible Text software on the Exacta platform, one new game theme and associated math model. 6H, IGT software on the Exacta platform, seven new game themes and associated math models. 6I, Konami software on the Ainsworth platform, five new game themes and associated math models. Item 6J, Every software on the Exacta platform, four new game themes and associated math models. And item 11D is the financial report and wagering activity report.
Thank you. Having read that, is there any commissioners that would like to remove something before we make a motion? Not seeing any, then we'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent list.
Mr. President, I would move to adopt the consent list as presented.
Thank you, Cactus. There's a second, and any discussion, conversation, comments? Not seeing any, we'll call the vote. All in favor of adopting consent list, state aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, say no. All right, moving on to adopting the minutes of January 17. Do we have a motion to adopt the minutes of the January 17 meeting, 2025?
President Broussard, so we've created the consent list and there was a
No.
motion to create the consent list.
Yeah,
Now we
never
need a
mind. So
motion
I see. It was on the list. Duh, okay.
Yeah, we need a motion though to approve the consent list as adopted.
Okay. We'll entertain that at the moment. Anybody would like to make a motion to approve the list as adopted? This is a time-saving function. Go ahead.
President Broussard, I would make a motion to approve the adopted consent list.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you. We have a second. Any discussion, comments regarding the adoption of the consent list? Not hearing any. All in favor of the motion, state aye.
Aye.
If there was anyone opposed, say no. Beautiful. Then we will move on to item 5. Online sports wagering. A, request for information.
President Broussard, I'll turn that over to Special Agent Supervisor Steinberg. And just for the record, Commissioner Schiffer has also joined the meeting.
Hi, Dan.
President Broussard, Commissioners, just quick updates on sports wagering. Item A is the request for information that you all asked for on limitations. As I reported last meeting, we have been waiting for the operators to give us that information. Since the last meeting, we have issued a directive to all of the operators to submit that information to our office no later than the 1st of April. So we will have that information submitted to our office by the 1st of April, and we will get that information to you after that date. I think some of the hesitation on the part of the operators was the question of some proprietary information, proprietary issue on their side, and we have alleviated their concern with that and whether or not that would be released or potentially released to the public if they were to release some of that information to us. And that concern has been alleviated. So we will be getting that information no later than the 1st of April. And so we will be able to report that to you.
Thank you, Mike.
The only other update I have is we did have a short issue with one of our vendors, OpenBet. They are a geolocation, a new geolocation vendor. They had an issue with, I'm going to try to muddle through this because I am not a tech person, so I don't fully understand how this all works. But apparently a user could log into somebody else's system, and I'm losing the words here. It had to be an Android system. It could, if somebody else had a host Android system in the state of Wyoming, another person outside of the state of Wyoming could log into that system and spoof the server to indicate that they were in Wyoming when they weren't actually in Wyoming and place a bet. So in other words, they were able to bypass the geolocating. OpenBet did self-report that that was an issue. They did fix the issue. And it has been confirmed through further testing with GLI that that issue has been fixed. And it is no longer, they are no longer able to do that. But there was a short period of time where a person could do that. And I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Did you, just for my clarity, did you just do general updates also? Or was that just alpha under request for information?
That was the general updates portion.
Okay.
Sorry, Brett.
No, that's great. That's great. Just trying to follow along here. All right, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. We will now move on to item 7, 307 horse racing.
President Broussard, item number 7 is 307 Horse Racing LLC's 2025 racing officials list. If
Okay.
you turn to page 178 in your packet, you will see the racing officials and service providers that 307 Horse Racing LLC has provided the commission for the upcoming 2025 annual race meet. Staff has reviewed this list. Many of these people are returning officials. Staff doesn't see any issues with the folks that they have selected. And we would be looking for a motion to approve 307 Horse Racing's 2025 race meeting officials and service providers.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have anyone willing to make a motion to approve the list?
President Broussard, I would make that motion.
Thank you, Cactus. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
That's Dick. All right, thank you, Dick. Now we'll open it up for discussion. Anyone want to make a comment of the list, discuss it before we call the vote? I'm looking at the crowd. It doesn't look very rowdy, but I'm thinking there's no comments, so I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of the list, say aye. If there's anyone opposed, say no. All right, just squeak by. All right, item number 8. Nick, is that you also?
President Broussard, item number 8 is a request from Wyoming Horse Racing LLC for a new OTB location at 416 South 3rd in Laramie, Wyoming. I'll go through this one in a little more detail. Let's see if I can get to the top of it here. On February 4th, 2025, the commission received a request from Wyoming Horse Racing requesting the opening of a new off-track wagering location at 416 South 3rd in Laramie, Wyoming. Along with the request was The amended simulcast permits adding the new location, rendered drawings of the floor plan layout and building construction, rendered drawings of security placements, photos of the location, the county resolution granting county approval, Wyoming Horse Racing's financial statement, a feasibility study, and a letter of support from the city of Laramie. In the request, Wyoming Horse Racing indicates that the property will be leased and the initial offering would be 100 historic horse racing terminals. The site plan that was submitted includes the camera coverage, as well as a separate simulcasting area with tables, chairs, and simulcast screens. Included in your packet on page 259 is a letter of support from the city of Laramie. And County Resolution 2025-005 granted approval for Wyoming Horse Racing to conduct simulcast events at 416 South 3rd in Laramie, the city of Laramie, Albany County. There's a couple of stipulations in the resolution that it is issued to Wyoming Horse Racing and may not be transferred without written approval of the Albany County Board of County Commissioners. It also has some language in there for Albany County's right of revocation if Wyoming Horse Racing is found in gross violation of Wyoming statute or the rules of the commission. And moving on to this one, on page 261 in your packet, it goes into some charts. The city of Laramie and Albany County currently has 2 operational OTBs. I know the report that you have says 1. The second location has opened since then. The total terminals approved for Albany County is 151. And as it stands today, there are 102 active terminals. Albany County has a population of 38,257 people, making it the fourth most populous city in Wyoming. The current average terminal per person rate between the 3 larger population bases is 1 terminal for every 90 people. Albany County's rate currently is 1 terminal for every 253 people. Without this approval, and with this approval, that would reduce that to 1 terminal every 152 people, still below the average of the 3 larger population bases. The recent study showed that Albany County is operating at 0.28% of the AGR for HHR. It appears to be performing under the estimated statewide level of 0.52%, as well as under the statewide potential of 0.65%. This data point may be viewed as though Albany County is underserved with HHR. In your packet on page 261, I've highlighted those numbers and those figures from the Spectrum Gaming study. If you look on page 262 of your packet, you'll see a map location. The 2 locations in red are the existing locations that were approved. The one in yellow, which now that I look at it, it's a little hard to see with that gold background. That shows this proposed location. Wyoming Horse Racing has been operating in the state of Wyoming for numerous years. Their current locations offer simulcasting and HHR machines. Under Chapter 10 of the Wyoming Gaming Commission rules, it says that the commission shall use the following decisional criteria for the approval or disapproval of an application: the operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming, the operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming's horse racing industry, the operator's integrity, individual and corporate conduct, criminal history, betting and gaming industry conduct, the operator's credibility, the accuracy of the feasibility study, the experience and expertise of the operator in the simulcast industry. The last thing that I would point out on this request, if you look at page 235 of your packet, the feasibility study, they're estimating roughly $500,000 in tax revenue to the city of Laramie and county of Albany, as well as $246,000 to the Gaming Commission and $196,000 to the Breeders' Award Fund. That is in the first year of operation, as well as an additional almost $200,000 in purse enhancements for their live race meet. I would stand for any questions on this request, and I see representatives from Wyoming Horse Racing here are also be available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Should we start with a motion and then get to questions in the correct
Your Honor,
order?
I move that we approve this request for new OTV location by Wyoming Horse Racing in Laramie.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowl. Do we have a second?
Mr. President, I would second that.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll open it up to questions, comments, concerns from the commissioners. Not seeing any.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner Ritholder.
this is kind of a bunny trail, but I was just curious. When the city of Laramie counts their population, do they add students?
President Broussard, I do not believe so, no. Those numbers come directly from census.gov. That's
So
where we
that
get
has
those.
nothing to do-
Has nothing to do with the population of the college
Thank you.
campus.
Thank you. It's a bunny trail, I just was curious.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Schiffer. You have a question?
President Broussard, good morning. I was going to follow up on Mr. Ritholler's comment. If I understand things right, age of 18, you're able to go into this establishment and play the machines. Has anybody done any studies or anything to figure out if these students are going to utilize this facility or other facilities for gambling? Thank you.
I have three of them with me here. When they get up, I'll ask them.
President Broussard?
Yes, sir.
President Broussard?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Cavella.
I think one of the limiting factors is that often these facilities serve alcohol, and that excludes those people under 21. And I bet they have an answer to that themselves.
Good morning, everyone. Pete Lagore from Wyoming Horse Racing. That's exactly true, Commissioner Cavella. As a company, we don't use the 18 age limit as a rule. We actually use 21 in all of our facilities. Some of them do have alcohol, some of them don't. But as a rule, we really want to make sure we're dealing with adults that come in the facility. So the Laramie property will be done the same way. And we are planning to secure a license, a liquor license there as well. But we will use the 21 age as threshold as a check to get in the facility.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. Any other commissioners? Not seeing any. Is there any comments from the public before we call the vote?
Commissioner Bull had a question.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Bowl, go ahead.
I'm familiar with Laramie 3rd Street, but I did not recognize this building. What was its prior use?
I'm John Sheldon, Wyoming Horse Racing. President Bouchard, Commissioner Bowles. It currently has a gym next to it, and there's a warehouse there behind us, part of the complex. And what it was used before, I'm not sure, to be quite honest.
When do you think you guys will have it open?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit more of a complex project only because the city has asked us to actually have a fire suppression system in the building, a sprinkler system.
Okay.
That's going to require us to trench out to the street and tie into the city main. But to answer your question, we think it's roughly about 4 months once we get started to once we'll be in a position to be open.
Thank you.
Do you know what its prior use the building was?
Yes, it was a Sears building.
It was a what?
Sears building.
Sears.
Yeah, a little small and, you know.
Well,
Outlet.
it looks like a neat building, and I know that a lot of times that's what we're doing with our historical racing machines is reusing, readapting existing buildings. So, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolt. Yeah, appreciate it, Cactus. If you see somebody needing to ask a question, just shout out. Anyone else on the commission? who would like to ask a question or make a comment? Not seeing any. Open it to the general public if there's anyone wants to make a comment. Oh, I see Micah. Ms. Richardson, you have a question?
Good morning, thank you. I am here to comment. I am Micah Richardson, and thank you, Commission, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm with Laramie City Council, and I just have a general comment from our council, a little bit to say here. So Laramie currently has 2 gaming facilities, as you all know, with this 3rd one in the works. And we recognize that this industry is growing in Wyoming and that it generates revenue, which we really appreciate. At the same time, though, the speed at which all of these are expanding, we feel like this means that we need to be really intentional and thoughtful about the impacts, both positive and negative, on our towns and our communities. As a city, we'd like a say in determining what's right for our community. We feel it's important that cities and towns have the ability to weigh in on, for example, how many facilities there are, and do they make sense for the number of facilities in that town, where they're located, and how they might impact nearby businesses and our residents. I really appreciate that you brought up the students. That's big on our minds too. We'd also love to know what they plan to offer in those facilities beyond betting. And at this point, I don't think we know that information. And again, how will that impact our community and our younger crowds? We've had off-track betting representatives reach out to City Council for letters of support, which we very much appreciate, and we've provided those. But if we had chosen not to support a facility, it would not have changed the outcome. These facilities are located in our towns, but we don't have decision-making power in the process. Cities and towns can look to zoning measures, but that's about all we've got. Our job is to represent the interests of our residents. And with the current process that's in place, we don't feel like we are able to do that. And so just wanted to share that perspective from a city. And I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. I'm very glad you're here, Ms. Richardson. Appreciate that. We need more representation from the places where these establishments are. We lean on you guys' opinion on this. And I wouldn't say you have no authority, because if you guys denied it, that would weigh heavy in our decision. I know for me personally, it would weigh extremely heavily. So appreciate that. I saw that Ms. Sherwood has a comment. Does anyone want to make a comment or address anything to Ms. Richardson before we move on?
Mr. President, I would.
Thank you, Cactus. Go ahead.
Yes, and with regards to your question and your comment, I think the legislature began to address that this year. The legislation did not get through, but certainly something that's been talked about, giving local control, and I think there's a movement towards that direction. And obviously, we lean heavily upon the direction from the legislature. So we're watching that. I suspect that's something that could come up again. I know it originated out of the House, and possibly our legislative liaison could address that. Would you mind? We have Senator Colvin and Representative.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, Commission. Senator Kolb, new here. That specific question just came up, which frankly is a little bit confusing to me. We have the representative counselor from the city of Laramie who enthusiastically supports this application, right? Yet in the next breath says, well, we want control. Well, I understand that. The issue would be is we do need control, all right? And that bill you talked about that was drored, actually, is what happened to it. Is still alive and well, the topic, and hopefully something will move forward here soon that will start to address this issue. But my point would be is that when I hear the city of Laramie say that we have a letter of support on one hand, and then, I don't know, a statement of hesitation on the next hand, it's a bit confusing. I mean, I'm all in for people wanting to support something, and I was surprised why we had a letter of support with that kind of enthusiastic framework, and yet we want people to have control. I think what the fallacy is, just to be clear about this, is that nobody has control. Not the cities, not not the state, not this commission when it comes to licensing. As long as the requirements are met legally, you have to issue license currently. And I think that's the problem at hand, and everybody recognizes this. I certainly do. I was a county commissioner when this all started in Sweetwater County for live horse racing. And I was probably the first one of the commissioners to sign under order of judge to agree to a permit. So I well appreciate the issue and certainly would like to come to a solution. So, but when we get letters of support by a city, well, that's what you have. Respectfully, that's what you have. So I would have, I guess, assumed that people would have said, well, hold up a second here. We really don't want to go down that road right away. And we're hesitant because we don't have any control. No, we get a letter that says we're in full support of it. So it makes it really hard to act on that because the city's officially said they support it. I guess what I'd say is the issue is alive and well. Hopefully we will move forward with legislation that will address this finally and put this to rest, and at least try to take bites of it and get it behind us. And then lastly, my last comment is to the comment about population base. I assure you that the students do count when it comes to redistricting for allocation of legislators, you know, how your districts are. That is a fact. Now, I don't know how it relates to this exactly, that the question that was put in here, but I will assure you, redistricting does go by students, just as the same as Rollins goes by prisoners in the prison. Ironically, can't even vote, but that's the way the law is. So I would certainly like to get a better explanation about that, because maybe there's some sort of exclusion I'm not unaware of. But I can assure you redistricting does use the population of the students for that purpose. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that. I do appreciate the chance to comment because it is a big deal, and the legislative body does take this very seriously, so seriously that bill didn't come out. So I mean, maybe that sounds a little counterintuitive there, but there's a reason, and it'll probably become clear in a little bit what that reason is. But we are working on it. It has not been forgotten, and we appreciate what this commission tries to do, and everybody involved with this, and what we're all trying to do for the benefit of the state of Wyoming. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Senator. I see more hands, but just a point of clarity from Michael, Mr. Kaler. Part of the process is to include a letter from the county commissioners of the particular county. If that letter is not included, or if it's denied, or what's the implications, Michael? We haven't had that yet, really, except for the thing in Campbell County.
I'm sorry, was that question to me?
No, it's for.
Okay, sorry, couldn't tell if you said Michael or Micah. I apologize.
It's for our attorney,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Keeler, or Nick. If the county commissioner's letter of approval or the letter is not included in the application process, or if the letter is a negative letter or denied, then we haven't had that situation that I can recall.
Mr. President, if statutorily we're required to have county approval through that resolution. If we were not to have county approval through a resolution, then the commission would not be able to approve.
So basically, at this point, you have lots of power to deny this. And I guess we're not talking about this specific one. I'm hoping that's clear, but I know you're concerned for the future and the future growth of this industry. And I believe the local municipalities, the cities, the counties had a veto power in this process from the beginning. Do you have a comment, Ms. Richardson, regarding what we're talking about now, or do you have a new comment?
I do have a comment on this, if that's all right for me to move forward.
Yes, please.
So I want to clarify. I appreciate Senator Culp's comments that we are still in favor of this, just in terms of when we move forward. If there is another brought forward, how much say the county has, from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, county has authority with that letter, but I believe if the city were to say, we don't want this, that wouldn't statutorily have a place. And so that's all I am trying to bring forward, is just to, as you all move forward as a commission, and as the legislature moves forward, you guys have to follow the rules of the legislature. So as the legislature moves forward, we are just trying to get our voice heard as much as we can, that we really want to get that city level voice as a part of the process. And so I'll leave it at that. And thank you very much.
President Broussard, we have someone else here that would like to speak. Ashley Harpstreet.
President, commissioners, legislators, my name is Ashley Harpstreet. I'm the Executive Director for Wyoming Association of Municipalities. I just like to make a couple of clarifying points. First off, thanks for having us. We're very excited to engage in this process because, as you know, with the non-passage of House Bill 85, we are not able to really have a place at the table. And so we are navigating our way. This has been a very quick learning process for all of us. 42 of 45 of the current permittees are within our municipal borders. Yes, we are able to issue liquor licenses, and we can zone, but we can't zone before the fact. The groups come in, it's a free market, they can buy their building wherever, but obviously this is a different business case. We don't want a facility right across the street from the Natrona County High School, right? There's welfare, this is just a different business. When you look at liquor licenses, there's zoning issues around that. So we are kind of behind the 8 ball in this whole situation, and House Bill 85 was hoping to clarify it. Unfortunately, it got hung up because there was several implications in that bill outside of the local authorization that they could not bifurcate that discussion. And so ultimately it died in the president's drawer of the Senate. It did, I want to note, however, for Representative Davis, fly through the House unanimously, and was the House actually was amazing in that process. So we're going to work with the Senate to figure out where our points are, and try to work on crafting better legislation where everybody's happy and we can get some skin in the game, literally. With that said, these are our friends and our partners, and with the change in revenues for our state, with property tax reductions, we want you in our communities. We want to be good partners, but there's just not really a place where they have to come to our city councils. A lot of them are coming to our city councils and having work groups and doing that government affairs and making sure that they're paving the way for a good public-private partnership. But we want to make sure, as we have new people enter our communities, we're doing that, right? So there's nothing making them do that. So we're trying to just, again, get into the game and be a voice at the table. As far as the conflicting letter, Senator Kolb and commissioners, that was from last year's council. So there's a whole new council in there, and that's Councilwoman Richardson is relaying the conversation that was just had with the current council. So as you know, politics and things change, and so that is reflecting current conversation that is happening at the local level. Right now, we're trying to get the public engaged, and Director Laramendi has done an excellent job of helping us try to publicize these meetings, because this is going to be our only space for public input, to say this is the channel where you need to say if you don't want this in your community, or we have some things we want to work through, this is the platform to do that. But we literally are slow to the game, and so that's why it might look a little clunky this first meeting. I literally went to the wrong building. I was at Warner Court, so that's why I came in late. So anyways, we are just here to be a partner, and I just wanted to clarify some of these points. House Bill 85 was my #1 priority for Wyoming Association of Municipalities. That's all 99 cities and towns. We have Sheridan here to comment. We wanted to make sure Laramie's here, and we will definitely have some comments during the legislative update. So thank you for letting me interject. And again, we are just here to see how we can all work together to move this forward.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your input. So there was, I see another hand, Ms. Sherwood. I will, just a question regarding the cities themselves. Nick, At this point in our application process, there's nothing that specifically states that a city must have approval. Am I right? It's just the county.
President Broussard, that is correct. State law says that they have to seek county approval via resolution. Historically, well, I'll say historically over the last couple of years, operators have been reaching out more and more to cities and engaging with the cities and getting, input from the cities as well, and including that in their applications. But it is not a requirement under state law or commission rule.
All right, thank you. Ms. Sherwood, if you'd like to make your comment.
Thank you, honorable members of the Gaming Commission, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Representative Trey Sherwood, so I'm wearing two hats. I'm here in Albany County with House District 14, but I'm also the director of Laramie Main Street. So we oversee the revitalization of our historic district. And so this location is within the historic district. So I have a few concerns about this location, and because it wasn't clear there was like no public facing packet that I could go through and sort of look at what you guys are seeing in your commissioner's packet. The forward facing public packet doesn't have the basic information about the business model. So because I had some questions, I reached out to the managers and the owners to ask those, because that's what we do in Wyoming, right? It's a small town, we're all neighborly, we go directly to the source. And so while I have found the manager and the owners to be very forthcoming in their willingness to collaborate, I still have some lingering concerns specific to this location. And that includes parking, what type of liquor license they're going to go after, and how that interacts with the food sales, and whether or not there will be a system in place to verify age and spot fake IDs, because we are in a college town and we know that our students can be very creative. And so sharing those concerns, I recognize there is already an awareness of them, a willingness to find solutions, which is greatly appreciated, but there is not yet a confirmed solid agreement on where employees will park, customers will park, how we're going to make sure that customers aren't stuck getting ticketed on the street for violating the 2-hour parking, et cetera, et cetera. Now, whether there should be verifiable solutions to those concerns in hand before a license is granted, that I believe is up to the commission. But it does also illustrate the clunkiness of the city council not having an official role in sort of approving these things collectively. I also wanted to speak broadly to the concerns that I've heard from downtowns, both in Cheyenne and Laramie, downtown business owners, regarding the lack of foot traffic that these type of businesses generate. So in a historic district, which is designed to be walkable, it's designed for customers to browse and to frequent multiple businesses per visit. Gaming establishments are destinations, which is amazing to have that type of business that captures customers for many hours at a time. But what they don't do is encourage customers to browse and explore the businesses that maybe are on that neighboring block. So I just wanted to voice those concerns I've heard from business owners who really want to make sure that the neighboring businesses on the block are encouraging customers to move around and to shop in multiple places, as opposed to maybe sitting and staying in one location for multiple hours at a time. And with that, I will stand for questions, but again, just appreciate the openness, both of the managers, the owner, and the commission to be in dialogue about these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. So Wyoming horse racing, there was a number of questions there. I will open it up for you guys if you'd like to address some of her questions and concerns.
Sure. Again, Pete Ligorian, and just in terms of some general comments, we've seemed to get off on a discussion about the local control bill, and I just wanted to assure the commission that we have acted as though it has been in place for quite a while, meaning we typically go to the city that we're interested in potentially putting a business in, have discussions. Honestly, it's constructive dialogue. I'll give you a perfect example. In the case of Torrington, the city said, this is not something we really want. We walked away. Technically, we could have gone to the county, gotten approval, and potentially had an adversarial relationship, but As was mentioned a few minutes ago, this is a partnership. And we want to make sure we're good partners and we're welcome in the community that we want to operate in. So generally speaking, we were supportive of the local control bill that was trying to get through the legislature. I know there were issues with the bill, but putting all that aside, the fundamental concept of having the cities have a say is something we're supportive of. So I'll just make that comment in general. In terms of specific concerns as it relates to downtown, and the concerns about what type of liquor license, we're looking to get an entertainment liquor license, so that would require us obviously to have a substantial allocation to try to drive food sales. And this isn't all about alcohol. We just want our clients to be comfortable if they want to have an alcoholic beverage. We want to be able to provide that to them, but that's not really the driver here. And in terms of parking and other issues that the downtown is concerned about, we are as well. And, we have made some arrangements with a local bank that's next door to provide overflow parking, BMO Bank. So we've kind of anticipated there may be, we don't really know, but we were trying to get ahead of that. So we actually reached out to another local business and we're going to be, we actually have an understanding, if you will, that we can use their facility on the evenings and weekends and things when there's likely to be more traffic. So we're trying to get ahead of that curve. And honestly, we learned a lot by having our facility in downtown Cheyenne in terms of parking and other things, because we wrestle with that every day. So it's not a new issue for us. In terms of age checking, all of our team members are trained in at trying to identify underage gaming. The last thing anybody wants is for that issue to come up and be that. So our team members do approach customers they believe are underage. If they do sign up for a player's card or rewards card, they have to show ID at that point. And if we identify them as underage, they're obviously asked to leave the facility. So, and obviously alcoholic beverages, the whole training through that process to be able to identify and check, so I'll say customers that may be questionable in terms of age. So there's multiple layers of trying to preserve the integrity of, as I said earlier, our operating philosophy is we only want 21-year-olds and older in our facility. So I don't know if that addressed all the questions, but I'm happy to, if I've missed some, I'm happy to address them specifically.
Thank you. Good information. So at this point, we'll refocus and if we have comments or questions regarding the facility specifically or concerns specifically on the facility, we'll try to address those. I don't see any hands. Nick, is there any commissioners that have something to add?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Kura?
Commissioner Kerr, go ahead.
This question for the gentleman at the front. Has a study been done by either the city of Laramie or in conjunction or as a partnership with you folks as to the traffic issues? And if there's a way that you could possibly meld both of the business, the city of Laramie and you guys, and find a shuttle service for if parking was needed further away, a larger area, especially during the weekends if it's busy, to get people back and forth? Has that been looked at or even thought of?
It has not been looked at, Commissioner, but we would be happy to. As I said, we want to be a welcome member in the community. And these businesses evolve. We think we know what's going to happen when we open, but in a lot of cases, that doesn't reality doesn't match what the business plans are, and we adjust. So we obviously have our commitment. I'll make the commitment to the city of Laramie that we, again, want to be good partners and will sort out any issues that are coming up. And as I said earlier, the city's asked us to put a fire suppression system in the building. Right. We're fine with that. We're making that investment to make that facility a safer facility, in terms of operation. So
I was just curious about that because I know parking is tough in the city of Laramie.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, appreciate you, Commissioner Curry. Any other comments before we call the vote? I don't see any on Zoom. I'm gonna assume there's none on there. Nick, so all in favor of approving the Wyoming horse racing location in Laramie, say aye.
All right.
If there's anyone opposed, say no. Thank you. All right, and I know there's gonna be more discussion down the road regarding local control, and again, just a comment from my end. I've always felt that this commission works for the people of Wyoming. We don't work for the industry, the gaming industry. So we are happy to have more comments from the local folks who live in the areas. All right, moving on to item number 9, Wyoming Downs, terminal edition request.
President Broussard, item number 9A is a request received from Wyoming Downs for terminal additions to the existing location located at 927 Coffeen Avenue in Sheridan. In your packet on page 267 and 268, you will see the updated floor plans. 269 and 270 shows new security plans. The city and county of Sheridan currently has 3 operational OTBs. The total terminals approved, Sheridan County has a population of 32,519 people as of 2024. The current statewide average terminal per person rate is approximately 1 terminal for every 100 people. Sheridan's county rate would be 1 terminal for every 140 people, coming in at a lower rate than the statewide average. On page 272, I noted in here that the Spectrum Gaming study noted that the statewide potential for HHR, GGR is estimated at 0.65%. Sheridan County currently is operating at 0.70% for HHR and appears to be performing above the estimated levels as outlined in the report. Sheridan County, this data point, when you look at the number showing that Sheridan County is operating above the statewide potential average of 0.65, shows that Sheridan County may be well served with the amount of terminals that are already available. If you continue to look at page 273 in your packet, you'll see that I've highlighted the chart, and that shows the population base that the numbers were based on, and their HHR as a percentage of AGI, which is 0.70. Again, this is a request to add 25 additional terminals to the already approved location located at 927 Coffeen Avenue. This doesn't require a new county resolution or anything like that. I would stand for questions on this request.
Thank you, Nick. So let's follow that last point. Has there been comment from the county?
President Broussard, I sent a notice to city and county officials in Sheridan County and the city of Sheridan on February 24th of 2025, seeking public comment, and I have not received any public comment from either city officials or county officials.
President Broussard, Director Laramendi, we do have a couple of individuals from the city of Sheridan, and I think if they'd like to make a comment on this request, it would be appropriate at this time.
Well, we should get to the comment section of our.
Sure, you had just asked if there was public comment from the city officials, and I just wanted to make sure it was noted they were here.
Is that Tracy?
That's correct. This is Tracy.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tracy. So let's make a motion. Can we entertain a motion to approve these? And then we'll get to the comments. Otherwise, we'll have 2 comment sections.
Mr. President?
Yep.
I move we accept.
Thank you, Commissioner Kerr. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, beautiful. Now, The folks from Wyoming Downs, have at it.
Thank you. Tracy Laycock, I serve as general counsel for Wyoming Downs and 307 Horse Racing LLC. And with me today, I have Kyle Ridgway, who's the president of the Wyoming operations for both of those companies. I had in my packet that this is actually an addition of 28 terminals, not 25, but there's a reason why I went to law school. Math isn't really my strong suit, so I would definitely rely on Executive Director Laramendi if my math is incorrect.
My reading is incorrect.
Okay,
That's why
all
I
right.
didn't go to law school. So it is,
Okay.
it is 28.
Yeah, all right, thank you. I just want to explain why we're requesting this when we haven't opened this facility. We're going under significant renovations at the Ole's in Sheridan. It's a really exciting project. And I just got through with the rezoning process in the city of Sheridan, which I really appreciated interacting with those local officials. When this project was first approved, it was under the prior ownership. And the idea was that we were going to keep, there was a pretty large patio at Ole's, and we were going to keep that open. So that if people wanted to smoke, they could go outside and be on the patio. As we were going through the process with the city and with the neighbors, it became really apparent that it was going to be better to have all of our operations inside. In the city of Sheridan, we can have a smoking area. So what we have done is spend the extra construction cost of enclosing that patio. We've also purchased a new RTU unit for the roof that has a huge air purifier in it. And then in addition, we can add doors to ensure that our customers who want to be in the non-smoking area can be in a non-smoking area. I was joking earlier, remember the days when you went to the cafe and the smoking area was right next to the non-smoking area? We don't want to have that. So that's where these 28 additional terminals will go. And this will allow all of our operations to stay indoors and not have people outside, which going through the rezoning process was important to the neighbors. And so it will allow us to keep those operations separate and inside. So that was the business decision for changing the layout here.
Kyle Ridgway, the Wyoming-based president for Wyoming Downs and 307. I'd just add that these additional terminals, as Ms. Laycock described, would serve a different customer base than is currently served in Sheridan. None of the existing locations in Sheridan allow for gamers to smoke while they're playing. So that's part of the reason for the request that potentially justify the additional terminals, given the saturation analysis, is that this is really a different customer base. So we expect this would be additive to the gaming environment. And create some organic growth and some additional tax revenue as a result of being able to have people play in an environment that they're otherwise not currently allowed to. This is a multi-million-dollar construction project at this facility. This is a facility that we own the real estate on, and this is one of the first facilities that's a showcase for what the new model of what the Wyoming Downs properties are going to look like through our new joint partnership. So we're really, really excited about it.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. All right. Any questions? Yep, Commissioner Bowles, you have a question? Go ahead.
So there was a rezoning process. Tell me about that. What was the rezoning issue? Did it go through P and Z? Was it approved? Were there public hearings in Sheridan?
Like President Broussard, through you to Commissioner Bowl, that's correct. We did go through planning and zoning, and then we went through 3 separate public hearings in front of the Sheridan City Council. In Sheridan, so we went and applied, Wyoming Downs went and applied for its building permit to make these significant renovations. And the city planner came to us and said that there was a disagreement as to whether or not Wyoming Downs could be in that zone. And we worked through that with the city because, working as partners is super important. And so we did come to the conclusion that it made the most sense to go ahead and go through the rezoning process and change the zoning there. I would say that Sheridan has very active community engagement. It's pretty impressive up there. So we did appear 3 separate times on the rezoning, and it was completed late February is when we were completely rezoned.
And so the Sheridan Planning and Zoning Commission approved the rezoning?
They did, and then in the way, excuse me, President Broussard, Commissioner Bowl, the way it works in Sheridan is that you go through the planning and zoning, and then it goes to the city council for final approval in 3 readings.
So ultimately, the city council approved the rezoning?
That's correct.
And was it during the rezoning process that the citizens made their concerns about the outdoor patio known?
President Broussard, Commissioner Bowl, it was definitely at that point when we had more neighbor engagement and community engagement about the property. And it became apparent through those conversations that it would be better as a business model not to have people outside and to keep our operations inside.
Okay. So if the rezoning had not been approved, would this project have gone forward?
President Broussard, Commissioner Bowl, it would not have.
Okay. So at least in this instance, there was some real local control. So that's all the questions I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowe. Great questions. Do we have anything further from the commission? Not seeing any. None in the table over there? All right.
President Broussard, we do have a few coming to the table here.
Okay, thank you.
President Broussard, again, this is Ashley Harpstreet, Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and I'm joined by our Sheridan Mayor, Rich Breyer, and Councilman to talk a little bit on our side of things. And I, again, just want to clarify, the 4 that are permitted and active in our state right now are all excellent community partners. And to be frank, the horse is out of the barn. So, but we're trying to catch up and figure out, Sheridan is kind of making a blueprint for the rest of our communities of how we zone ahead of time, even if we don't have a permittee in our community yet. And I think are giving us a good idea of how to move forward until we have legislation in place to really specify and articulate what that local control looks like. But if it's in the opposite form, it's hard for that public input, right? So this is a really great example of us being proactive. So I'll just turn the time over to them.
So, hi, my name is Rich Bridger. I'm the mayor of the city of Sheridan. The evolution of this was that the Wyoming Downs wanted to move to a different place in Coffeen, and it wasn't zoned properly, actually. So at that point, the move had already been started, and we had to make some adjustments in order to make that work. They have been a very good partner with that, but everything was sort of after the fact, I would say. We were dealt with a problem that we had to deal with, and that's what we did. But at that point, the move had already been started. There had already been renovations put onto that building. It wasn't until adjacent neighbors came and complained that that really wasn't zoned correctly, and they were basically rather opposed to the idea of that moving there. And so we had to make some adjustments to make everything work. So that comes back to that idea of a little bit more local control, where we have that ability to say, hey, let's put the brakes on this for a second and stop and analyze what we're doing to make sure that that works for us and it works for the community. I have no problems with Wyoming Downs. They've been great partners. It's just that with this particular instance, and really with the whole process, everything is sort of, for the city anyway, has been always after the fact. It's like everything's went through the county, they've approved everything, and now we're dealing with stuff that's happening in our town where it'd be nice. Beforehand, it's like we had some forewarning, we had some time to talk about it, we had some input as to what we wanted that to look like. And so I don't have a problem with the Wyoming Downs. I don't have a problem with gambling in general. I just have a problem with the fact that right now, the way it's set up, and I know you're trying to deal with it with House Bill 85, but we just really don't have a lot of say in what happens. And so everything just comes down the pipe, and And like with this thing, we just deal with it and figure out what we're going to do with it. So that's kind of all I want to say about that at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. I see someone else would like to speak.
I'm Jack Wood with Sheridan City Council. Thank you, President, Commissioners. Yeah, the mayor is right. You know, it'd been nice. I mean, Wyoming Downs did a great job. They came to us and with the zoning problem, and we handled it through our council and our planning commission. But if you look at it, they go to the county and get approval, and then we don't get much say on anything. We would like to have them, if they want to put a casino in our town, come to us, talk to us, and let us approve it, not the county. I mean, who sets the regulations on revenues and everything else? We don't get to set any of that. We don't get to talk about it. We don't get to do anything. Basically, we're getting a casino, and hopefully it's in the right zoning. But they've been great. They've been easy to work with. And like I say, we did go through a few problems, but we got them worked out. So, and I can thank Wyoming Downs for that, for coming to us and talking to us, and we'd appreciate that.
Thank you. I just have a quick question for anyone up there, the panel. What is the relationship with the city of Sheridan and the county? Do you have enough sway over the county if you were firmly against something at this point? I mean, I know that's not the end fix, but that there is some protections that you have at this point, I think.
Well, I think for myself, it's kind of a live and learn thing at this point. It just came upon us where we're suddenly there. I mean, you know, actually it's lessons learned, and maybe there's better communications as far as what that happens with the county folks. But at one point, both entities, 307 and Wyoming Downs, came to Sheridan, and then so that's what they became a part of our community. And this is kind of a result of that. And the end result was that we had to deal with something that was a little further down the line. But you're right, there's a good conversation to be had with the county, because I think to everybody, even to us, it's all a new ball field. And so we're just trying to figure out the processes forward.
I appreciate that. I mean, we've been doing commission work for years, and it seems like some folks are just getting involved with it, and that's great for us. We've always wanted more local comments, input. It sways our opinion. Thank you for that. So Cactus, did you have a question, or is there someone on the commission?
No, there's just Ashley Harpstreet again.
President Broussard, I just wanted to assure you at the state level and our association level, Executive Director Jeremiah Ryman for Wyoming County Commissioners Association, our two legislators over here know us as the dynamic duo. We have been walking in step together on House Bill 85, which sometimes there's a pull and push between county commissioners and city council, and we are really trying to bridge that gap and encourage amongst our members in the association to have this organic conversation. So do know that we are doing this at the state level and trying to work as best we can together. Unfortunately, Mr. Ryman could not be here today, but they are monitoring this closely as well.
Thank you. I have unfortunately not met our new Senate liaison, but for those folks in the room who would like to talk to our Senate, that we have a wonderful avenue right there sitting at the desk. So I saw a hand come up on the end of that table. Yeah, if you'd like to comment, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to bring up the expansion on the 28 games. We're for that. We would rather have everybody inside. So closing that smoking area up and everything is much better for us, and we appreciate them bringing that up to us. It's definitely a better thing to happen inside, not outside. So, and Bob, I did talk to you at the legislature. Appreciate you trying to get that through, and let's see what we can do again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
President Broussard, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Cavella.
Yeah, at this point, you know, we're talking about the local control, and I'd like to reiterate that those of us sitting up here at this table that vote on these do listen to what the locals have to say. And if you had come to us and said that you were not in favor, that would weigh quite heavily on how I would vote whether this would be permitted or not. So we are listening. We are looking to the legislature for a little bit more definitive legislation in that regards, but don't think that your say doesn't matter.
And I would say it's, for us, it's a live and learn, and we'll be smarter the next time, so.
And I do think that we should raise the gambling age, and of course, we got drinking to 21, make it all 21. I mean, 18-year-olds, I mean, we're all a little crazy then anyway, but I'm 74, I'm still crazy, but I'm not that bad. But, you know, at 18, you can throw money down a pot really fast, and I think 21 is a better age, and let's just make it all 21.
Appreciate that. Dan, you have a question for the panel?
Well, I guess it was following up on the comment, Mr. Ludke, that I know there's a Sheridan College in Sheridan. Does the applicant have any policy regarding 18 versus 21, or any comments from the panel? I guess you made that, but just curious if we could follow up on that train of thought. Thank you.
President Broussard, Mr. Schiffer, Tracy Laycock, General Counsel for Wyoming Downs and 307. Yes, as this commission is aware, when we serve alcohol, and this does have a liquor license with it, we restrict our access to 21 and up for those facilities. So if we serve alcohol, we card at the door and do not allow 21 and under in the facility.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So just a suggestion to Nick, maybe some input from the commissioners too before we sign off today, but if we may consider adding an item on our next agenda, not a voting item, but a conversation discussion item regarding, obviously we need an avenue to hear some comments. So instead of having these comments between each, specific item, we can maybe have an open discussion regarding local control and have some of the folks from the cities and counties have a discussion. I don't see anyone with any expressions on Zoom, so I don't know.
President Broussard,
yeah.
if you would like me to put that on the agenda, I will put that on the agenda.
That is the shortest way to say what I was going to say. So I appreciate
As
that.
well, I just wanted to also address the, some internal changes that we have done. We have implemented some new policies with these things, with how, with all of the discussion around House Bill 85 and trying to engage the public and local municipalities and counties. We've changed our processes internally as well. So when we're fielding these applications, before it was, check this box, check this box. We've also designed a notice that goes specifically to the city and the county that these applications are coming from, really trying to get, that avenue easy for them to submit any comments that they may have. The last one that went out, it's just you click a button and they can type it in, and then we have that on the record as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we're making some progress in that as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Nick. All right, any other commissioners would like to make a comment to the panel or in general? Not seeing anyone in the.
Mr. President.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Rittholler.
Commissioner
I'd like
Rittholler.
to say thank you. That is very good discussion. I like that a lot. The state of Wyoming wanted to get their feet wet in gambling, but they don't want to drown. And that's the next step. So, we didn't hear a lot about it when the first one showed up. It's when they start multiplying is when the saturation point. And we talk about that all the time. And I'd like to make sure the communities know that we weigh heavy on what the community wants. And it would be nice to have a piece of legislation that says this is exactly right, because I hear it up in my country. The town of Gillette, city of Gillette, different places. And I would have to add to you that with a little county, the cities are always mad at the county. It doesn't matter if it's a dispatch system, and of course the argument is it doesn't matter if you live inside of Sheridan or outside of Sheridan. You are a Sheridan County resident. Yep, it's all Sheridan County. So that's what happens to county commissioners. They pretty much are the top dog except the sheriff. Thank you. I appreciate it.
President Broussard, if I may,
Yes.
Tracy Laycock, General Counsel for Wyoming Downs and 307. Also just want to let the commission know that's why both of our brands, 307 Horse Racing and Wyoming Downs, both supported House Bill 85 this year, and do think it's an important piece of legislation that needs to move forward.
Appreciate that, Tracy. Okay, so do we have more discussion from the gallery? Any more comments? I'm gonna rely on Cactus or Nick to tell me there's none, and then I don't see any hands on the Zoom, so I will call the vote. All in favor of approving the 28 machines, say aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, say no. All right, thank you. All right, and we have 9B left to discuss. Is the
President Broussard, item number 9D is the racing officials and service providers list for Wyoming Downs for the 2025 upcoming live race season. In your packet on page 275 and 276, you will see the submission to our office. I want to point out just a couple of things. Items 6 and 7 are blank. Those are the stewards. That's pretty standard. So they did not provide the photo finish provider yet. And I think the clerk of scales, Mr. Lamb is on the line so he can speak to that. Pretty sure they already have their clerk of scales. I think that might have just been an error by not putting that in there. The one thing that I would draw your attention to is items 9 and 10, the paddock judge and the starter. That is listed as Mr. Darren Hall for both of those. In 2023, at the end of the race season, our stewards recommended that under Chapter 5, Section D, having multiple positions, the stewards recommended that our essential positions, i.e. the paddock judge and the starter, specifically the starter, not hold multiple positions because it's important for them to be at the gate the entire time. Mr. Lamb would like to speak to this and their process and why they have it this way. So I would defer you to him for that explanation.
So before Mr. Lamb speaks, Nick, the question for me, so is that a rule that was changed at the request of the stewards, or did we have a conversation and change the rule on the committee?
President Broussard, actually, it's an existing rule. Under Chapter 5, Section D, the rule states that no person shall be considered for approval by the commission as an official unless such person is a professional racing official with a reputation of good character and ability or has indicated a desire to become a professional racing official. No person shall hold multiple positions in a race as a race meeting official without obtaining commission approval. So it is an existing rule. Most of the time, like a lot of times, especially at the track, you'll have like your paddock judge and your identifier is the same person because the job roles both take place in the paddock. So that's pretty easy. Wyoming Downs' circumstances are a little bit different, and that's what Mr. Lamb wanted to speak to.
Okay, so our rule already states that certain people should not have multiple roles. Is that what?
Mr. President, it actually says that no official shall have multiple roles.
Okay. But we've already, in the past, we've allowed certain people to have roles. So we have disregarded the rule. Is that what we're saying?
So the stewards have the authority to approve those officials as they progress in there. And they have approved those multiple position roles. It was in 2023 where they had said the steward's recommendation was that those primary roles, like your starter, I think there was a couple others, starter, clerk of scales, that might have been the only two.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Secretary, yep. And the racing
make sure
secretary.
it was, so if something we approved in the past, that was against our rules. That's not the case.
No, that is not the case. Nope.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Mr. Lamb, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, when Nick first mentioned this to me, I was a little bit surprised. I think it does require some conversation. There are roles, official roles that do conflict and can't be done by the same person. For the last 40 years in Wyoming, the paddock judge and the starter, at least at Wyoming Downs, has been the same person. So, or 35 years, excuse me. But uh, in some cases, like if you were trying to put too much on an official, such as maybe making the identifier and paddock judge and starter, yeah, that might be too much. And 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 I can see that. But in our case, where we have the starter being the paddock judge, is actually it helps our situation because the paddock judge is the one that looks at the horses in the paddock and checks equipment. The starter is at the starting gate, and he also has to approve equipment in the mornings. So those two things actually fit together. And on top of that, the starter can get a good look at the horses in the paddock, see who's acting up, who's acting a little funny, and use that when they get to the starting gate. One other part of that is you got to remember the starter has 10 assistants at least. He usually appoints one of those assistants to determine which assistant starters get which horses in the gate and which horses may need to load early or which horses are using special equipment such as flipping halters and that sort of thing. So the starter has help, a lot of it. And I've worked on the starting gate myself when I was going to college and I really have I think a good feel for what those guys are doing. So in this particular case, and there's other reasons too, and I guess I could elaborate a little bit. As far as having the paddock judge also be the identifier, which was suggested, it actually wouldn't work that well for us because I have our identifier also be our claims clerk, which is not on the list, but it's a very important position, especially at Wyoming Downs. We have a huge increase in claiming of horses. And my goal is to really tighten that process up for us because in past years, we didn't have that many horses being claimed. Last year, we saw a big increase in that. I expect it to be even more of an increase as purses get better and more people get involved in racing. And so we're going to tighten that process up, and that identifier is a big part of that for us. And we could have, I can see races where we might have 2 or 3 horses with claims in for them, and I think we really need to pay attention to that. So I would just request that for now that the commission approve this position, the starter being the paddock judge. And I'd love to have the discussion further down the road if there's a problem. But to my knowledge, the stewards never brought this problem to me last summer, and I've talked to the starter, and he didn't know anything about it. So, I would really like to have that discussion, but I don't think it's a problem now. I think it's a fix for a problem that doesn't exist at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. So question, in the past, when you had those two positions filled by the same person, who was the authority that approved that?
Mr. President, that was the commission that approved the starter position and the starter and the paddock judge.
Okay.
Yeah.
President Broussard?
Yeah, go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, with regard to that, this is to Frank. Frank, so just to clarify how that works, so the paddock judge would be in the paddock while the horses are there, getting ready to go, and then as they leave the paddock and go out onto the track, you have one of those vehicles then take that paddock judge down to the starting gate and assume that role at that time. Is that correct, how that works?
Mr. President, Commissioner Covello, yes, that is correct. As a matter of fact, the starter's in charge of the of the transportation. He drives the truck that takes a number of his crew.
Yeah, I
are
rode in
also-
that truck. I know, okay.
Yeah, a number of his crew are also valets. They're saddling the horses, so he takes them down there. I think the process works really well. I mean, the starter has a good hands or has eyes on those horses from the time they're in the paddock to the time they get to the starting gate.
So basically, Mr. Lamb, that was the starter part. It was a slash starter position, but both positions. So it was one of his responsibilities was the other thing. So instead of having two positions, you had a position with other responsibilities. Is that kind of how you looked at it?
Yeah, it is. And it also, another part of this thing is that, we're competing for racing officials at the time of year we're running almost all the tracks in the country are trying to run. So we're competing for the best racing officials. And we can pay more if we add another position in there that doesn't conflict. And the starter that we have that also is being utilized at Sweetwater for the same positions. He worked at one of the major tracks in the country at Canterbury Park last several years, and we were able to pay him enough to entice him to come to Wyoming, and he's done a really great job for us, and we certainly want to keep him.
All right, thank you. So I see Eugene on there, but Frank, you give me the short answer. Does that same person do both jobs at Wyoming Racing? I mean, yeah, Wyoming Horse Racing. Yeah.
Yes, he does. I can let Eugene elaborate.
No, I
on
see him. He's nodding. I got it. That's the quickest answer I've ever had from Eugene. All right. Any other questions or concerns, comments to Frank, Mr. Lamb?
President
Yeah,
Broussard.
Dan, I see Dan. Okay. Nick, who else?
President Broussard, I don't know if we're moving on or we're going to continue on. I have a question on a different individual.
Okay, hold on one sec. So, Nick, do we have a question or concern specifically for Mr. Lamb?
President Broussard, I just needed to see if Mr. Lamb could identify the photo finish provider yet, or if they're still working through that. I know that the longtime photo finish provider that they had retired last year, and also the clerk of scales is missing from the list. So I just need to make note of those before it's approved, so we have those, if at all possible.
You have an answer, Mr. Lamb?
President Broussard, Executive Director Nick, the photo finish part, we're supposed to get an answer today, actually, from a company that we're getting bids from. We're getting 3 different bids on it, so I don't have a clear answer for that today or at this. I will later today, hopefully, but not at this moment. As far as the clerk of scales, I do not have a clerk of scales right now. I've got 2 people that I've approached that are supposed to get back to me on it. Our clerk of scales in the past was Sean Windsor, who was also our racing secretary, and that one, it's interestingly enough, that one, it's just gotten to be a little bit much for Sean, being the racing secretary, to also be the clerk of scales. So recognizing that as an issue, as a problem, and not wanting to jeopardize that position, we're looking at getting someone that just does the clerk of scales position. So that kind of fits into the previous conversation, and we'll have that as soon as possible for Mr. Laramendi.
President Bouchard.
Yes, thank you.
I have a comment. So when we changed these rules, there was a problem with dual roles at on the racing officials level. We did take into consideration and agreed that they would look at them and try dual roles for a year to see how that panned out. Our stewards and our presiding steward And after talking with them with the wrap-up, all of their reports showed that they are strongly against approvals of the racing secretary having a dual role, the starter having a dual role, and the clerk of scales having a dual role. They feel that these are certain ones that they did not, that they did not want to waiver on, and I did tell them, and I believe they did tell Director Laramendi, that they, on those 3 positions for this year, that they are 100% against having dual roles for those 3. And those are our judges at
Go
the
ahead, Nick.
racetrack. So for whatever reason, I mean, I do know that the starter at Wyoming Downs is top-notch. They hire top-notch people. Not saying that, I just wanted to go ahead and make sure you guys knew that this was not coming from staff. This is coming from a request from the stewards, who you guys have actually charged with being able to approve officials. If they're not on this list, we give them, they do have the right to nix them and add somebody else if they deem that what you approved does not meet their criteria. And they did state for those 3 positions, they were not in approval to have those be dual roles. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Dan, are these one of the positions you have a question or concern about, what we're discussing?
No.
Okay. Eugene, you have a comment regarding this topic we're discussing? You're on mute.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President and commissioners. I just want to weigh in on the dual roles of the starter and the paddock judge. And I would tell you that we are going to request that Darren Hall have both of those roles at our racetrack. And I would tell you the number one factor in our decision-making is safety, okay? I think it is vitally important for the starter to be in the paddock, interacting with those horses prior to them showing up at the starting gate. And as Mr. Lamb mentioned, for 35 years, there has never, ever, as far as I know, and I've been general manager at racetracks for 25 years in this state, had a complaint about the effectiveness and the efficiency of the starter performing the duties of the paddock judge. Never, ever, not once. So I'm just curious as to why the stewards think that it is a conflict of interest for the paddock judge to do these roles. Again, it's been tradition, and this commission has approved. I mean, the rule states without commission approval, you approve the officials list. Okay, so the recommendation of the stewards is all well and good, but this is kind of the first we've heard of it. I completely disagree with that. I can understand the other 2, but I don't believe there is any way you could say that there's a conflict of interest or there's a lack of efficiency and effectiveness for the starter to perform both of these roles. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce.
President Broussard, if I may, real quick.
Yeah,
So
I have a question for you too. So go ahead.
So real quick, the stewards never said that they felt that it was a conflict of interest. They were looking at this as a matter of really, I think, safety more than anything. And they felt in 2023 at the end of the season in the report that we got from them that they felt that the starter should be behind the gate, ensuring that the gates are set correctly at the right distances at every race. And I think part of that came because there were some gates that were maybe set wrong, and that's kind of what started that. But we can have this conversation with our stewards as well and get them involved in this conversation as well.
All right, thank you, Nick. So in the past, the commission has either disregarded the rule or had some mechanism to approve the list as submitted. What is the mechanism to to circumvent the rule if that's the case?
So President Broussard, it's not really a circumvention of the rule. It's, you all have the authority to approve it as submitted, or you can approve it as it's not submitted. I'd have to go back and look through the submissions from last year, because I believe that last year they weren't approved to hold that same position. But if we can maybe come back to this in a little bit, I can log in and look at that.
Okay. All right. So more questions to either of the operators who are standing by? Not seeing any hands. Yep. Frank, you have another concern or question you want to ask?
I just wanted to answer that. That Nick was looking up, Mr. President. Yeah, that the paddock judge and starter has been approved every year since I've been coming to Wyoming racing for 35 years. So, at least at Wyoming Downs, and it was approved that way last year.
So Frank, why was that not one job? Who made the delineations between the jobs?
Well,
if it's always been one job, why was it not one job, one official?
Well, and no, you may have misunderstood me, or maybe I misspoke. It's always been the starter and the paddock judge has been one position for Wyoming Downs since the inception of Wyoming Downs.
But it's delineated on the form as two different people or two different jobs?
Right, it could be two different people. You could, and for example, you just approved the 307 racing officials, and there the paddock judge and the identifier are the same. And that works for them. It's a better situation for them, but it's not so much for us. It's just a difference of how things are laid out and how things work.
All right, thank you. I don't want to beat this up. So Mr. Joyce, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm just real quickly. I mean, as far as the placement of the starting gate, you know, we have installed, you know, distance markers. Before it was just a piece of black tape and on a rail on the outside. And so we have colored distance markers. You have a safety steward that goes out to the starting gate every single race along with the starter. And if those two recognize that maybe a gate hand has made a mistake, you still have plenty of time because the horses are still warming up. And if you have to move the gate 30 yards, you can move it 30 yards to get it to its proper thing. So, you know, as far as that being the reasoning of the stewards, I disagree that that's a major problem at our racetrack. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Okay.
Just to follow up really quick again, and I don't want to beat this dead either, but I'm the voice of the stewards. So, and I'm just relaying what they have asked me to relay. And hopefully we can get them on in future and have them be a part of all of our decisions here. However, the 307s were approved. They looked over this list. Like I said, the three major ones that they did not want to have dual roles were the major ones that they felt were the biggest part of the industry, which was the racing secretary, the starter, and the clerk of scales. That have the most, I guess, importance to them. So that's why 307s were approved, and there was no problem with those. And also, when we did these last year, we did approve them like that. But if you go back and review the testimony and things there, we stated that we will approve them for that year. Once these rule change that you couldn't have dual roles, that we would revise and see what the stewards thought, and we would bring back if they thought that this was okay, that what we approved. And so therefore, that's why we brought back this time that they were not okay with those being dual roles for whatever reason. I cannot speak on why they felt that, but after every meet, well, Wyoming Downs and Wyoming Horse Racing, they both stated that they did not feel that that was appropriate. we would have to ask them why. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so Frank, do you want to make a comment on that? Yeah, I see a hand. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. President. I would just respectfully ask the commission to approve this, these two dual roles as stated. And if there is a problem, I mean, I would really love to have this discussion with the stewards, because I go in and talk to the stewards all the time. I was a steward. I get where they're coming from. So, and I would love to have this discussion with them. I don't think it's as big a problem as is trying to be presented here today. I think it's really a non-issue. But I would respectfully request that this be approved as is, and then we have this discussion somewhere down the road when and if there ever is a problem. And that's it.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Lamb, Mr. Joyce. If we do approve the two positions and there is a conflict between you and the stewards have a mechanism to have the authority to say, we don't care what you think at this point, we want. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. The stewards are your representative at the racetrack, and you've given the legislature and the statutes have given them the power to control the live race meet, and they're your representative, and they can, if they tell us that's what they feel, that's what we have to do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lamb. All right. In regards to other positions on the list, Mr. Schiffer, you have a question. So while we have these guys, let's go through them.
Thank you, President Broussard. Just want to point out, you've nominated Steve Wood to be the track superintendent. Unless he's changed his residence, I believe he's not a resident of Evanston. And given what happened 2 years ago, I'm a little concerned that his not being on site on a daily basis certainly could be the genesis of some more problems this year. And I think you need to address for the commission how Mr. Wood is going to oversee his role as track superintendent, and what assurances we're going to have that we don't have a disaster like we did before. Thank you.
Frank, you have the floor.
Mr. President, Commissioner Schiffer, I'm glad you brought that up. As you know, the Northern California racing is having some real issues, and that's where Mr. Wood has concentrated his efforts in the last several years. They're not going to be racing much in Northern California, if any at all. So, in my discussions with Mr. Wood early this year, I wanted to hire him to be our track man, but the deal had to be that he would be there and stay at Wyoming Downs for the duration of the race meet, and that's what we're doing. And he'll be bringing a couple of people with him, and then hiring a couple of people that will be at the track. And so Mr. Wood will be there, and I'm sure you know his resume and what he can do, and I'm very confident that the track situation, the track surface will be as good as it can be with Mr. Wood there full time.
Thank you, Frank. Anything further, Dan? Do you have a? Okay, perfect. Do we have other questions, concerns regarding the list? Anything from the gallery? Do we have a motion? Sorry, I've forgotten. It's been so long.
There is no motion, Mr. President.
Okay, well, let's entertain a motion to approve the list, the 2005 racing list for Wyoming Downs. Anyone would like to make that?
I'd move that we approve their list for 2005.
Thank you, Commissioner Torgensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
that Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Further discussion.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Commissioner Bowles, go ahead.
I don't know how we can approve this list because it's incomplete. There are at least 2 positions where we don't have any names. So I don't know how we
Would you
can
like to-
proceed at this time. My preference would be to table this, and this means we'll have to
Okay.
have a stupid special meeting to consider it, but time to get those last 2 individuals named. It would also give time for this discussion between the stewards about this dual position thing going on. And it does mean that we would have to have a Zoom meeting prior to the racing season to approve this list, but right now, we don't have a complete list. And I don't like the idea of approving something that we know is not complete. So I'm going to vote against the motion, I'm going to vote against the motion for that reason.
All right. Thank you.
Me too.
Any
President
other?
Broussard,
any other
if I
comment?
may.
Yes.
So they're required by rule to submit this list 60 days prior to. We wouldn't have to call a special meeting. There is time to approve this list in the May meeting before Wyoming Downs runs.
Oh, okay.
So we wouldn't have to call a special meeting for it.
Okay, so much the better. Then I don't see why we need to act on this list today. Let's take the time
Okay.
to complete it, and maybe there'll be an exchange between the track owners and the stewards regarding this dispute, which we're been going on and on about. And maybe we can even come back with some sort of consensus on that issue. So I'm going to vote against the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowe. That's good. All right. Any other comments before we vote? All right, not seeing any. We'll call the vote. All in favor of the list, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, Nick, let's do a roll call vote, please.
President Broussard,
Yes.
Vice President Cavello,
No.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowl,
No.
Commissioner Schiffer,
No.
Commissioner Rithaler,
No.
Commissioner Cura,
No.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Wildcat.
No.
President Broussard knows, have it.
All right, thank you. So at this moment, do we need to make a motion to table the item and come back to it? Or is that just going to be on the agenda next time around?
President Broussard, we'll have this relisted on the agenda.
All right, thank you, Nick. All right, we will move on to item number 10 from the Cowboy Racing folks. And if we could ask to keep it between 10 and 15 minutes, if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Well, hang on one second. I'm sorry. Does anyone need a break out there in Wyoming?
President
America?
Broussard, I've had a few text messages asking for said break.
Okay, I'm gonna guess it's Commissioner Wildcat. Okay, let's have a 5-minute break, 5 minutes.
Poor guy.
I have 10:21, is that right? We'll come back at 10:26.
Yes.
Glad to hear your comments. Appreciate it.
These meetings are a little bit crazy. That's true. You've been on the county commission.
I've been on Park Commission.
Yeah, Municipalities do have more of a say in this whole thing. Letting on today.
We've met before, actually, yeah, good to see you, and I wanted to formally, I'm Sal, and it's nice to meet you. That's okay, I'm great. So I just want to, we appreciate our partnership, my comments were more so I received.
Well, yeah.
Figure this out along the way. Yes, do you have any questions about racing in the changing councils, but whatever we can do, like. Yeah, I'm not worried about that,
Family, yeah, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Silly me.
I know.
2 and 2 does equal 4.
It does. But yeah, anytime you have questions on.
There may be
Lori and Sherilyn are awesome, and I work with them super closely, worked with them for years, and I just text them, I hope I didn't have to fires, and it's like more of a bigger issue that I was like.
It won't be that.
Yeah.
It'll build off.
Right.
And then they can manage it.
So then we've done different.
Oh, I'm there. So now, with your home, she's a nurse, right?
And it's just, in person, you guys need contact with this.
It is, and what's,
It's just not what it started.
we're trying to keep up with it, but now it's, so I think we're determined to. What we need to do. Well, anything you need, it's nice meeting you.
Well, I'm just trying to learn.
Nick? Come in, Wyoming. You out there? All right, folks, can you hear me in Wyoming?
President Broussard, we can.
Okay, thank you. So if, Nick, if you'd get ready to start sitting back down so we can get cracking.
President Broussard,
Yes.
Vice President Covello. Commissioner Torgerson,
Yep.
Commissioner Bowl, Commissioner Schiffer,
Here.
Commissioner Ritholler. Here. Commissioner Cura. Here. Commissioner Francisco.
Here.
Commissioner Wildcat.
Here.
Senator Kolb. Representative Davis.
Right.
Mr. President, everybody has returned.
All right, thank you. At this point, we'll continue on with item 10, Cowboy Racing's update.
Mr. President, item number 10 is a track construction update from Cowboy Racing LLC.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? My name is Will Edwards, 506 Shoshone, Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm with Cowboy Racing LLC. We're the developers of the Thunder Plains project in Laramie County. It's March and the winter hopefully is thawing out and spring is starting. And so now it's a good time for us to give you an update of where we're at. So thank you for having us this morning. We pretty much focused the construction internally into the shop with the rail system and the materials and got that all ready over the winter months, while the site itself was winterized and kind of kept down because it was covered in snow and wind. Now we have revved up and we are pushing very hard on site. Right now, we are in the midst of processing the base course material. All the grading on the site, overlap grading on the site is complete, as you know from our report last year, but we are processing the surface material. We are lucky and fortunate to find a good gradation of native material in the soil that is present on site, and we're in the process of screening that material. The bad part about that is that it is still wet from the spring, and so we're getting a lot of clumping and clotting in the screens. So first we start, just to go through the process real briefly, and I'll be brief, I promise. We start with a 1-inch screen, and then it goes to a 1/2-inch screen, and then it goes to a 3/8 screen, and then we have our base course material, and then we have a silty clay byproduct that can be mixed in later for better binder. So that's the base course, and we're in the process of creating huge piles of different soils right now. From then we start with the cushion material, and that is going to be per the spec of Dennis Moore and Dr. Mick Peterson, which is it's a pretty strict specification, and it's been challenging to meet it, but we're confident that we're going to be able to use a lot of that same base course material in the mix, but we are also mixing in 2 different source materials off-site, maybe 3, depending on how that sourcing comes back. From then, we mix it and place it and put up the rail, and that is what we're working really hard on right now, and that's probably going to be the program for the next little over a month. In addition, we have finished all the final draining plans for the drainage and detention plans for the entire site, and that construction is going to start very soon. That's basically the entire site construction, so our detention. So that's how we handle the 100-year flood events that might occur and whatnot with parking and making sure people don't get stuck in muddy puddles. The best case scenario, critical path shows us completing the track the first part of August. So I think we're feeling very good about that timeline. That is the best case scenario, though. There's a bunch of unknowns that I'm concerned about. Nationally, we're talking about the two biggest building materials that I think we're going to need is steel and aluminum. And nationally, that we're looking at tariffs on those. So I don't know what the effect that's going to have. That's just a concern. A lot of our suppliers are ordering them and have been pre-ordering a lot to sustain their needs in case there's any kind of supply chain issues there. So we're feeling pretty confident. And then obviously weather and wind. Right now we're having kind of as you know, a pretty typical spring, and we're hoping it just continues that way. So with that, that's basically, I could go into a lot more details if you want, but I was in an effort to kind of keep it short and sweet today. I'd just like to just tell you that's where we're at. We're pushing really hard. We're trying our best. And with that, I can open up to specific questions.
Thank you, Will. I think what we were listening for was your projected timeline. Seems like you have a plan, you're on track still.
Yeah, everything is on track as planned.
Okay, thank you. All right,
no
commissioners.
news in that
All right, great. Does anyone have a question for Will? He went much quicker than I was anticipating, so good.
Yeah, President Broussard, if I may. Will,
Yep.
will you come back in May and give us an update?
Yeah,
Perfect.
please.
Thank you.
All right, beautiful. Any other commissioners have a comment or question? Beautiful. Well, wow. You got anything else you want to add, Will, before you take off?
Well, nothing glaring. I mean, like I said, I could take everybody's time up this morning and get into all the details of every aspect of this, but I think that, maybe we can do that in May as the questions come up and issues may present themselves.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Commissioner Bowl, you have a question?
Mr. Edwards, are there government permits you need to get, anything from Laramie County?
Yes.
Where are you on that?
Through you. Right now, we have everything permitted, but there are certain things like as we're handling septic systems for the first year, for example, there's county permits that require for above tanks. We haven't applied for those yet because we haven't had those specific needs. If you give me a second, I could think of a handful of them. We've received our permits for the secondary access. We need a FEMA floodplain permit to cross a certain portion of the floodplain with our road. That's in process right now. That's not expected to be a delay. Just by way of side note, that's going to be about 24, 36-inch culverts that we have to put in to maintain that floodplain. There's items like that. We're working, in addition to that, we're working with the county. There's some requirements that the county has as far as landscaping goes and our improvements of the county roads that's in process. Those permits have all been taken care of, but those are requirements that we have to keep an eye on. Like I said, if I sit and think, I could tell you some more, but
Good time to get your permits squared away.
yes,
so that
absolutely.
you can go gangbusters when our weather improves.
I will tell you, though, another challenge that we are having is we're in communication with High West Energy, which is the Rural Electric Association that provides electricity in the area.
Okay.
We requested full build-out amount of electric power for the site, and to get that much power, there's quite a bit of infrastructure. There's been a lot of demand on electricity in Laramie County from the data centers and such, that there's been a big demand to increase or upgrade the electrical infrastructure. So unfortunately, we're finding that being put on our back a little bit. We're the project that comes in the door that's gonna.
They're requesting the track to put in the electric infrastructure?
In order to serve the electricity that we are asking for, they need some substantial investment into their infrastructure upstream. And that has been all ironed out and understood. Lucky transformers are really back ordered right now. They said 18 months or such, but the transformers that we need, the 3-phase ones that they need, they actually have them in stock. And they said that won't be a problem, but still the timing and getting the electricity there is going to be another challenge. We're confident as a backup, we could find some pretty big generators. I mean, oil and gas operations use huge generators and things, so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolt. Do we have other commissioners who have questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Kura, go ahead.
will it, I know this is probably in the future for you guys, but do you have any idea for your temporary facilities for the spectators and the racetrack attendees? What
Yeah,
have you? You got
absolutely.
your barns already in plans?
Yeah, absolutely. We have identified, okay, so all the grading is done for the barn area and the fencing is planned to be put in. I'm actually meeting with the fencing contractor next week to get it going. There's going to be a hybrid there of, we're going to start with permanent structures. We have certain barn manufacturers that have been identified. Legacy is the first one that comes to mind that we're working with to build some permanent barn structures. As they are completing permanent structures, we plan on supplementing, depending on how we find ourselves at the end of the summer, supplementing with temporary structures.
And of course, you got to have the electricity and power to those.
Yes.
Too. Right.
Yes. Okay. Let alone to run the water pumps, and that's not
Okay,
easy
thank
either.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Kura. I want to make sure everybody's questions are answered at this point. I know there's a lot of unanswerable questions, but we're wishing you luck, Will.
We're pushing and
Me-
trying our
Mr.
best, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yes.
Or
Is
Mr.
that-
President, excuse me. My big question is, we heard a lot over there this session is water. What is your source of water over there? Because it takes a tremendous amount of water for the track. You've secured a source?
Yes. Without the calculations in front of me, I could tell you down to a detail how much each race takes in water. We've calculated, we have more than enough water secured. I have a 2-year temporary water use agreement with the neighboring pivot that's probably about 1,200 feet away from where we need it at the track. In addition, I have 2 wells, and we're going to be petitioning the state for what do they call it, an expansion of that well. But right now, we have secured about 14 acre feet for our race season of water.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you, Representative Bob. Any other questions?
I think we have another one.
Yep. Who's that?
Are we good?
All right, no questions. All right, thank you. We'll appreciate your time.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
We're pulling for you, my
We'll
friend.
see you in May.
All right. Okay, so we will move on to item number 11, Director's Report.
President Broussard. Item number 11A, the Director's Report. I've got a few things to go over here. The first is we have completed a total work through of our website. All of our forms have been updated with current information. Ones that we found that were maybe confusing to the public, we've rebuilt and tried to make them more user-friendly and easier to follow. All the information has been reviewed. All of our applications have also been updated. And we have some, like I said earlier, some new internal procedures in place for vetting certain applications and going through certain processes. This last Monday, we hired Alicia Volan. She is new to our office. She's not here today, but she'll be our new face in the front office when you walk in there. Normally this item of business takes place a little sooner, so this is going to seem a little out of place, but congratulations to Vice President Cavello and Mr. Torgerson. They've both been reappointed to the commission. Inside your packet, on the commissioner's packet on page 279 and 280, you'll see the letters from the governor's office with the reappointments for those two. We also are graced with Senator John Kolb and Representative Bob Davis as our new legislative liaison, so we'll be working very closely with them as well. The last thing that I'll add in the director's report, this is more of a compliance report. I'm just going to loop it in with the director's report, though. Last week, well, over the last several months, the office has been made aware of some concerns with our advanced deposit wagering operators, our licensed operators in the state. There's been some concerns raised regarding violations of state and federal law. Wyoming state law talks about parimutuel wagering must take place in the county, in only counties that have approved parimutuel events. Currently, there's 7 counties in the state of Wyoming that do not allow parimutuel wagering. On the ADW side of things, that's not really, it doesn't narrow it down. Like, it's not geofenced like sports wagering is, that you can set certain boundaries. With that being said, the office sent letters to all of our licensed ADW platforms last week, early last week, advising them that this is an issue and this is a concern. Since then, we have met with, I believe, every ADW, licensed ADW that we have, and we're in discussions with them to figure out how we address this and get them compliant with state law as far as the 7 counties not accepting wagers and the tribal lands. Federal law says that our tribal partners have sole exclusive rights to accept wagers on tribal lands. And as it stands right now, you can get on an ADW, you can wager in those 7 counties, and you can wager on tribal lands. So we're working through that with the ADW operators. I hope to have more information for you in the coming future as we muddle through this and figure this out. Is there any questions regarding the ADW information that I could answer?
Hurry.
Moving on to the next one, our special agents are continuing to work illegal gambling investigations throughout the state. Can't go into a lot of details about that, but we currently have active open cases in several counties. They're going to continue pushing forward with those, and I'll keep you abreast of those as well as things start becoming adjudicated in public. We also have inspectors in the field diligently every day of the week. And internally, we are currently working on developing a more up-to-date like education and training, almost like a mini testing lab inside of our office. So within the next couple of months, you'll be able to come to our office. You're going to be able to see several different skill games, the newer models that we're regulating, as well as a bank of HHR machines that we can test software on. We can do training and education internally in our office. Some of us are really excited about that because we like the techie stuff. Other ones don't like the fact that it's going to take up office space. And lastly, the thing that I have, I know I had sent you all an email yesterday. In consultation with our presiding steward, last year there was some discrepancies found with accepting works from Weber Downs. Works are required, a 2-year-old starter or a non-starter is required to have 2 works, one of them being within 45 days prior to being entered into a race. Last year, the stewards determined that there was some works being, official works that they were finding inside the Equibase database that were questionable. I'll put it that way. They were questionable, and at that time, the stewards stated that they were not going to acknowledge or accept works from that track. Since then, we've been looking into that, and we have found that there was really no official way for these works to be entered. Horses aren't being identified. There's no official clocker there. There's no official starter there. Kind of the status was a horseman would go to the track whenever they could. They would run their horse on their own, make a phone call and say, hey, I worked horse A on this date. This was the time that I got running this many yards, and that would get entered in as an official work. The stewards and office staff find that extremely problematic. from a couple of different perspectives. Number one, the integrity of it. We can't verify the times. Those times get put in, they get put on official programs, and the wagering public ends up looking at that for making wagering determinations. And it's too questionable in our opinion. And the other one is the safety concern. You know, we don't know if these horses are actually being worked and conditioned properly to start. We don't want to take any chances, you know, at our tracks and put our operators in any of harm's way. So that directive in consultation with the stewards was sent out just a couple of days ago. It was revised in working with our stewards and staff. I will tell you now that Ms. Koltiska has probably fielded well over 100 phone calls about this. We've been working with the Utah Racing Commission, the Utah Quarter Horse Racing Association, Weber County and Weber Downs, and our stewards. And we came up with some criteria to allow them to still get official works there closer to home and be eligible here. But it does take some work on their part. They're gonna have to have a steward there. They have to have a clocker there, and they have to have a starter there. And these horses need to be identified so we can verify that what's getting into the database in front of our wagering public and at our track is truly an official work. So like I said, we're working through that. We've had some really great conversations with the Utah Racing Commission, the Utah Quarter Horse Association, as well as Weber County and Weber Downs. And I would also stand for any questions on that as well.
All right, thank you, Nick. Any further up questions or follow-up questions for Nick on the director's report?
President Bizard,
Yes, sir.
when you have a official work, does it have to have more than one horse in or can you do it with a lone horse?
President Broussard, Commissioner Heller, no, one is fine.
One horse?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for Nick regarding the director's report? Not seeing any. Nick, are you still the rules process updater?
President Broussard, that is correct.
All right.
So item 11B, just this is a kind of a quick update on rule process. Online sports wagering chapters 1 and 8. These were the rules that were put through this commission for the harassment. They are currently in public comment. Public comment for those ends on the 29th of this month. So next Tuesday, I believe that is what that is. To date, we haven't received any public comment on those rules. As well as the parimutuel chapter 3, which is the appeals process and the adoption of OAH's appeal. OAH, is that correct? Yeah, OAH's appeal process. Those are also in public comment, and those end on the same day. We have not received any public comment on those. I know that we have had some discussion, I believe in the last meeting, about maybe putting together a committee to start looking at some changes in rules to tie up the loose ends with the safety inspections that we had and their recommendations for rules. And we'll get into the gaming study after lunch today, but there's also some recommendations and rules there. But two of them that I'd like to bring up real quick, and actually, I don't know if she's on yet, if one of them that I would like to bring up briefly, sorry, I'm clicking buttons here. Is the state vet on there? Can you move her over if she is? While she's working on that, I'll bring up the two just for maybe some little quick interim discussion. Conduct of races, Chapter 8, Section 3, III. Or I guess it's double I. Our rules state that a negatives EIA or Coggins test is required within 12 months prior to arrival at any racetrack. The commission staff has been working very closely with the USDA vet as well as the state vet. And there's some concern that this 12-month window is too far out. A horse could be tested, 12 months prior to today, and they could go to another track and they could come in contact with Coggins and they could get Coggins. They could show up at our tracks and they could spread that. The USDA is currently, I guess they're calling it an outbreak. Is that correct? Yeah, so the USDA is currently managing a Coggins outbreak within the state, or not in our state, but within the nation. And our state vet can speak to her concerns with this as well, and then we can have some further discussion if that would be acceptable.
Of course. You want to have, is that Hassel?
President Broussard, that is correct.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Hassel, you can, she wants the floor, she can have it.
I think I need to set it up first before we talk about that. So basically what brought this up is in the racehorse business, there was a huge outbreak of EIA, which is the equine infectious anemia, that's what the Coggins test tests for. And what has happened that started this is that it is from racehorses. There was an outbreak in New Mexico and then also in California, where over 24 horses had to be euthanized. And even more, I think, now that they've moved, because it was also in Texas, on quarter horse trainers. A lot of those horses do get sold to people up here. They you know, we're in a big market to buy quarter horses from Utah, Idaho, and as well as the problem is that a lot of this, we're worried because of the match racing that happens in Utah, Idaho, Nevada, Colorado. Right now, we haven't found any here, but these cases are happening, and that's why we started with the USDA and Haley Hansel, our state vet. She put us onto the USDA. We've had great conversations with them, but it is a situation where once this outbreak happened, other racetracks across the country moved it to you would have to have it within 30 days to come on their property or 60 days. But you know, ours is a year out, theirs is closer to the time that the events are happening. So that's where the conversation started. And from that, I can let Dr. Hansel go from there.
Yeah, thank you, please, Dr. Hansel.
President Broussard, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Hallie Hazel, Wyoming State Veterinarian with the Wyoming Livestock Board, and I'm based out of Cheyenne. And I think that Brandy gave a very good introduction to the situation that we currently have in the United States. And right now, there's a huge concern with unsanctioned racing. I'm sure many of you folks have heard about that. The number of unsanctioned tracks is far outnumbering the number of licensed tracks in the US, and it's headed in a direction that we really are quite fearful of what might happen down the road. That being said, there's been a very serious EIA outbreak or concern throughout the year. This year, it's been growing over the past few years due to unsanctioned racing and the fact that unsanctioned races have zero requirements. You can use anything, do anything, no control whatsoever. That being said, because of the number of horses, and we are well over to having well over 130 positives in the United States this year, and this is primarily just in racing horses, racing quarter horses. And we know what's happening in the barns. It's happening with some certain trainers, but it's not just a few trainers. We know it's more than that. But the industry standards right now are moving to a 60-day test or a 30-day test, as Brandy stated. And the purpose of that is basically for a year test, we're not going to catch those that are coming in or going race to race that are actually getting this using illegal blood products or blood doping or doing unsanctioned racing. With the 60-day test, we can actually catch those folks and find those positive horses and get them off our tracks before it becomes a serious issue. As she also stated, there's a high risk of those horses coming to our state. Absolutely. And the more races that we have, the greater that risk. We have unsanctioned tracks all around us, period. That is not going away. As she said, we haven't found any in Wyoming yet, but that doesn't mean that they aren't here or aren't here yet. We know that some of those people are here. We know that some of those horses are all around us. And we really don't want to encourage that. We want to be able to catch those horses before they come into our barns. And I do appreciate the action that the Gaming Commission has taken with regards to noting that if folks are noted at bush tracks, they're not allowed to be on Wyoming tracks. I sincerely appreciate that. But we need to go one more step, and we are asking you from the Livestock Board to please consider stating or requiring a 60-day test for EIA at the minimum. 30 is also an option, but we recommend 60 because we can catch more of those horses due to the length of the incubation period for equine infectious anemia. There is not a treatment for EIA, but it can definitely be passed through illegal use of drugs, blood doping, and we're seeing this in horses that are very, very young because of blood doping, and also horses that have a high infective dose. In other words, they will die within a few days because of the infective dose they're receiving. One of the culture standards that we see in a lot of these bush track races is that if there is a winning horse, they will take blood from that horse and use that blood to dope their horses just because that horse won. That's the only reason. And so if that horse is an EIA positive horse, you've instantly infected any other horse that you give that blood to. But that's an industry standard, and it's part of the blood doping process that they use. So I'm asking for you all to please consider, on behalf of Wyoming's racing industry and all the equine in our state, that you please implement a 60-day EIA and pyroplasmosis test requirement for these horses. Pyroplasmosis is often common with dual infection with EIA. And that's also because of blood doping. It's transmitted through blood doping. Whenever we change our rules, it affects all the equine in the state, so every industry. That's why we're asking the Racing Commission to consider making that a rule for Wyoming racetracks. And it's been a rule now, it's been implemented in many other states with racetracks as well. They've already put this rule in place. That's really all I have at the moment. If there are any questions, I'm here to stand for those.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Dr. Hazel, if I may, would you have any issues if the commission looked at trying to amend these rules to have the flexibility in working with your office every year to determine, I guess my question is 60-day window, because there could be a time in the future that maybe 60 days is too soon. Maybe we don't need it anymore, and maybe the year applies back to that. But would you have any heartburn if the commission was able to work this in a way that every year we consult with you and the USDA and we determine what is good for this coming year?
So President Brousseau and Commission, absolutely, as long as, and I'm not familiar with your rulemaking process. I'm not sure how long it takes you, what the ability is for the commission to establish a rule for that season. If you have the flexibility to be able to change that season to season, absolutely, if that flexibility exists.
Yeah, I guess, Nick, if the threat level lowers, then we have the flexibility to lower the cost on the owners and whatnot. But if the threat level rises, we could even do something different. Is that what you're saying?
President Broussard, yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. I think it should be, if we can get the flexibility in some of these testing requirements that, if 60 days is, because God forbid it needs to be 30 days next year or the year after that, and then it's 11 months, then just having that flexibility to work with, the state vet and the USDA, the folks that really understand these kind of testing requirements and processes far better than I do. I think that would be beneficial for us all.
Well, you already have some suggested rules, Nick?
President Broussard, I have some thoughts, and
Okay.
I think I can work with that.
Well, I think we're speaking for the commission. I would like staff to give us some examples of some rules that you're considering, if that's okay with the rest of the commission.
President Broussard, I can work on that. I guess my question for you would be if now would be a good time to try to set up either like a sub-rules committee to go over this one as well as some of the other ones and just lump them all together and then present that, or however you would like to see that go moving forward.
So we're looking for some volunteers for a committee, advisory committee on rules. I think I see Dan's hand already up.
You knew that, no question.
President Broussard,
Yeah.
I think listening to Dr. Hazel and understanding this danger that's really very, very real and very troublesome, we need to try to do something before racing begins in May And I don't know if we can do an emergency rule as we did last year or 2 years ago to deal with that situation, what the timeline is. But I mean, I think we can't just sit around here and debate this issue. We need to take action at this point and get a rule in place for our 2025 racing season. So I think that's where we need to focus our discussion at this point. Thank you.
President Broussard?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Cavallo.
Yes, I'm complete agreement. I would like to see us move on this now. Even if it takes emergency rule, I'd like to see something in place for this racing season.
President Broussard.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kaler and I will start working through that process. It would require an emergency rule. So I'll start working on compiling the information for the outbreak nationwide, to help build the justification for that emergency rule. And I can work with the state vet as well if she's willing to lend a hand in that, and we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're willing to have a special meeting if that's a Zoom meeting, if that's what we need to put this on the fast track.
Very good. I'll get started on that right away.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hassel. Appreciate your time. Nick, are you done with the rules process update, or do you have more?
President Broussard, I got one more just along since it's in this chapter anyway. And this is coming kind of, I guess, at the request of some of the operators. Currently in our rule book, it's on page 822, chapter 8 in our rules. I think it's section 14G. It talks about, it says each racehorse shall carry a conspicuous saddle cloth and head number corresponding to his number on the official program. In the case of a coupled entry, each horse making up the entry shall carry the same number with a distinguishing letter, for example, 1, 1A, 1B, et cetera, et cetera. This has been a kind of an ongoing thing for us. The rule says that the horses shall carry a saddle cloth and head number across. Head numbers have become, and I'll let the operators speak to their point of it, head numbers in their opinion are kind of a thing of the past. That was a lot of black and white photo finishes to where you could really see the numbers stand out. Now we've got 4K video. You can see the hair on the horse pretty clearly as it's crossing the finish line. The problem that we run into every year with this, though, is the commission is charged with enforcing the rules that we currently have. This rule says that they shall carry it across. So unless you all decide to change this, the staff feels that we are in a position to enforce that rule and they must carry head numbers. So I will let the operators speak to their concerns with the head numbers and some of their safety concerns with head numbers, and then we can talk about that as well.
All right, Nick, I just have a question for you real quick before we open the floodgates. Are you saying that this is an obsolete rule?
President Broussard, I think that's a determination for you all to make. I can tell you that the operators and several of the horsemen do feel that it may be antiquated. With the advances of technology, it's probably not as important. And I would say that it's probably not as important as it was. However, I also know that last year, the head numbers did come into play a couple of times in Energy Downs. And the stewards did rely on those in placing positions. So I think it's kind of a toss-up sometimes.
All right, thank you. All right, so do we have a comment from one of the operators? Is that you, Mr. Joyce?
Yes, Mr. President, Commissioners. Head numbers are antiquated and archaic. I don't know many tracks that utilize them anymore. Again, with the color photo finish, you can accurately determine who's finishing where. I don't know of any problem we have had at Sweetwater Downs in the last 14 years of a hidden nose or where a head number would have made a difference. From a practical standpoint, an operational standpoint, what happens is there's not too many people that make these things anymore. They're specialized, they're very expensive. And what happens is you have to hook them onto the bridle of the horse in the paddock before they go out to the race. Now, sometimes, especially with 2-year-old quarter horses, who are a little skittish handle around their head, it's becomes a dangerous thing to get that done. Even if you get that accomplished, when they come off the track, it's up to the valets to pull them off the horses. A lot of them forget, they go to the barn area or they just disappear. And so even after a weekend of racing, you're in the position where you have lost head numbers that you can't utilize anymore. And so again, I think it's impractical. It's a archaic, and it's not needed to correctly figure out the position of the horses at the end of a race. And that's my opinion on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Do you have any other operators that want to make a comment? Or any other horsemen? Anyone in general?
Jack's coming up.
Okay.
Jack Greer, 307 Horse Racing. Good morning, everyone. I would just say that whatever the position of the commission is, we would be happy to support. We do use the head numbers in Gillette, and they have come in of use occasionally. So with that, I'll just support the commission with whatever they would like to do on this topic, and we'll be happy to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, anybody else?
President Burchard, Brandy again.
Okay,
I
Brandy.
will have to add to this. Head numbers are used to the stewards to the placing of the horses. This is used for their benefit only. It's a huge benefit to them. There are a lot of tracks that do not have these. However, you have to take into consideration that the tracks that don't use them anymore have high-tech videos, high-tech machines, very clear. We're not there yet. If you look at some of our past, when they blow up the pictures, they're pixelated. We do not have advances in that yet. That's something that the operators and their photo finish people do need to look into. Our stewards, maybe not at Sweetwater Downs, the stewards have a different position. They're looking down, straight down on them, where at Wyoming Downs, they're looking sideways. So those numbers do provide a good way to identify the horses, which that's for. It's not really for the public or anything like that. Head numbers, armbands, helmet covers, all of those are all ways that a steward can see who it can be. If you see some of those races, especially quarter horse races that we do a lot of, those horses, it is so close. You get dead heats, nose to nose. You can't even see the number from the inside. They do not have reflective mirrors on some of these tracks to where other big racetracks show where the photo finish, you can see it coming from the opposite end, not just from this side, the mirror reflects back. So the reason why that was put in place was because of that, to help the stewards identify the photo finish and the correct order of finish in a race. Now, we do have arm numbers. All of these things are helping. Helmet covers are supposed to be the same. However, the problem that we've run into is the jockeys they're not putting on the armbands. They don't change out their helmet covers. So you'll have a jockey that red is number one, right? The saddle towel should be red, the helmet cover should be red. And that helps the public know what the horse is, as well as to help identify. Jockeys are coming out, they don't have the armbands on, they forgot to change their head color from the previous race. So, there's a lot of things that are happening there. I would say that, I talked to the stewards about this. They do say the head numbers are nice when they do need them. And I told them that the operators are saying that, it has to do with expenses and stuff like that. But But honestly, you know, if they're making them back to the barn, the valets, which the operators pay to do this, you know, they're obviously not doing their job. So I think there's a lot of things, everybody needs to take accountability for this, but if it's still in our rules, you know, we fought with them. And even though it was a rule, we fought with them and they're not doing it. The last 5 years I have fought with the steward, not fought with the stewards, but the stewards say they've asked the committee, you know, the operators to commit to this and use them. And I believe Energy Downs is the only one that has fully committed and had them in on every race. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, but I just wanted you to have a back end of why they're really used. And the fact is that until our systems get more antiquated and they use better pixel and get better photo finish, then, you know, until we get clear, precise pictures, you know, they still are, like last year, are being used to help do the official order. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Brandy. Any more comments or questions? I'm guessing that we will have some perspective rules suggestions in the next meeting. Is that right, Nick?
President Broussard, we can put this in with the same committee for rules and look through this and research it and every, you know, everything else that we need to do. You know, the one thing that I would just like to point out is the way that I look at things from my background is if it's in the rules, antiquated or not, if it says that it has to be done, until that rule is changed, that's the law. And unfortunately, you know, our staff is charged with enforcing the rules as written. That's why I wanted to bring this one up. So if it's determined by you all that we need to change it and it is antiquated, we can change it. But in the meantime, you know, our hands are kind of tied, quite honestly.
Right, so Nick, I just want to make sure we're answering the right question that's being asked right now. And that is, is the staff asking for us to form a committee that to observe or investigate certain rules that may be antiquated or may be needed to be revised? Is that what we're asking right now?
President Broussard, that'd be correct. I would just recommend that maybe we put together a small committee to put some of these things in there, as well as the stuff from the safety inspections, and start reworking some of those.
I think that's great. Does anyone, let's address that now. So do we have any commissioners or liaisons or anyone who would like to serve on a rule review committee?
President Broussard, are we talking overall or are we talking specifically on horse racing?
I think we should have a first tier of rules that are pertinent and just are pressing, and maybe keep it to bite sizes at first. I know we'd probably get more volunteers as opposed to looking at all of our rules. I don't want to do that, but I would be happy to help with just some suggested rules from staff that are troublesome to them. Do we have, and maybe a handful? Is that something that we have interest in from the commission?
I would, Mr. President,
Nick, you can put my name down. Thank you. Commissioner Covello, Commissioner Wildcat, and I'd be happy to join, Nick.
Very good. I have those three down, and then I'll start working on putting something together, and then we can set up some times to just meet, and I can explain what we're seeing and everything else.
Nothing from Representative Bob? Yeah. Who is that?
It was Tracy.
Tracy?
President Broussard, Tracy
Go ahead.
Laycock, General Counsel for Wyoming Downs and 307 Horse Racing. You know, I've spoken anecdotally to everybody in the back. I do think that it would be beneficial to have an industry representative from each of the operators on the rules committees.
Are you volunteering?
Absolutely, but I'm not the best pick. I think there's more qualified people, especially for racing. But I do think we have people that would willingly volunteer from our side, Mr. Lamb and Mr. Greer.
Frank, are you putting your hand up?
I am.
Okay. So perfect. We've got that addressed. There's 4 at the
Jack
moment.
put his hand up.
Who? Jack? Okay. We can't have two guys from, that'll just be for cat fighting.
They're two
All
different
right.
operators.
All right. Maybe. Okay, so Nick, you have that down. We'll crack on to that here pretty quick.
President Broussard, I do. And I think that's all I have for the
Okay.
rule process update, and we got some good direction, so we can move to the next one if that is your pleasure.
Yeah, am I still, do I have a good connection with you guys?
It's starting to freeze a little bit, but we can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move to legislative report.
President Broussard, item 11C is the legislative update and report. I'll just go through the bills and kind of the history of these. It shouldn't take too much of a time. The first one would be House Bill 85, the local approval for simulcasting. This bill was introduced to the House on January 23rd, 2025. It was referred to House TRW. On February 3rd, TRW on the House side recommended amend and do pass with 8 in the affirmative and 1 excused. On February 6th, it passed third reading of the House, a vote 61 in favor of and 1 excused. On the 7th of February, the Senate received this bill for introduction. It ran out of time and it was not considered. House Bill 162 was the iGaming bill. On January 20th, 2025, House received it for introduction. They referred it to the House TRW. February 7th, it did not come out of House TRW. It died in committee. House Bill 299 was the online sports wagering amendments. This was introduced and referred to House TRW on January 30th of 2025. And it looks like I'm missing a line on here. It ended up passing House third reading on February 10th, a vote of 45 in support of, 14 against, looks like 3 excused. It was introduced on the Senate side on February 18th, and it was referred to the Senate TRW. Senate TRW amended it and recommended do pass with a vote of 4-1 on February 25th. It was placed on general file on February 25th, but it failed committee of a whole on February 27th, a vote of 12-12 with 7 excused. Senate File 164 was the parimutuel rodeo definitions. This was the bill that was to give us the authority to do the background checks for rodeo events. It was introduced on the Senate side on January 29th and referred to Senate TRW. It came out of Senate TRW on February 4th, recommendation of do pass. All 5 voted in the affirmative. February 11th, it passed third reading on the Senate side, 17-13. It was introduced to the House and referred to travel on February 14th. On the 20th of February, the House TRW recommended do pass, a vote of 7-2. It was placed on general file on the House side, and it was not considered for committee of a whole. Senate File 116, which was the anti-money laundering bill. This bill was a direct result of information gleaned from the Spectrum Gaming study. Senate introduced and referred this bill to travel on January 29th. Senate Travel TRW recommended do pass 5 across the board. It ended up passing Senate third reading, a vote 17-13. It was introduced on the House side and referred to House TRW on February 14th. House TRW recommended do pass 7-2 on February 20th. It was placed on general file on the 20th as well, but it was not considered by committee of a whole. The other 4 are pretty easy. House Bill 139 was the interstate export of Wyoming horse racing. It was not considered for introduction on the House side. House Bill 138 was the Wyoming Gaming Commission Amendments Bill. That was also not considered for introduction. The parimutuel breakage bill, House Bill 84 was not considered for introduction. And House Bill 87, the consolidation of gaming, was not considered for introduction as well. Several of the topics that were brought up in the Gaming Commission amendments as far as age requirements go, trying to even the board. I've resubmitted several of those back for interim topics to discuss again, to try to get, the age requirements across the board, the same 21 for all sorts of gambling activity across the state, as well as some other things. I will keep you abreast of what happens with how that works and when committee meetings are scheduled and what the interim topics ultimately will be. And that is all I have for that, but I believe that there's some public comment for the legislative side of things as well, Mr. President.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Nick. So who do we have that would like to comment? Am I there?
One second. She's walking up.
You can hear me though, right, Nick?
We can.
Okay, because I've lost you twice.
Mr. President, members of the committee, my name is Ashley Harpstreet, again with Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and I'm pleased to come back up here with City of Sheridan and then also the City of Casper City Manager, Carter Napier, who also is the WAM president of our board of directors. And we, again, just wanted to show our support in working collaboratively together. We've had a great working relationship already with the executive director, Laramendi, and really want to work on crafting some of this legislation that didn't move forward this past session, especially as it comes to local control and then looking at those age limits to maybe bump it all to 21 plus. So I would defer any questions or see if you have any questions and then defer the rest of the time to my group that's with me.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for the panelists?
I have nothing more to add really, other than to reiterate again, May 16th, if you have a discussion on this, we would be more than happy to share our feelings again. I do think that we've had a good discussion today. Like I said, Ashley said, part of our thing is having some more input as a town so that as we move forward that we can bring something to the table in addition to what's already been discussed. And that's about it. I just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Anything from the legislators? No? We're good? All right. So Nick, are we, anything further on legislative report?
Mr. President, Senator Cole would like to speak.
Okay, Senator Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think we all know that we have an issue with local control, and there's a couple others, but certainly local control is the #1 issue. And that is going to be worked on. And I assure you that the President of the Senate is deeply involved with this and agrees that we have to do something. So it's probably going to involve collaboration amongst all of us to come up with legislation that we can mostly agree to, obviously, and get something forward to give control back to the good people on this commission who, are frankly volunteers for this job. And, and what I hear, they're doing a great job, and I appreciate it. But to everybody, for that direction is that it's a legislative solution is where it has to be. And I think that that's known by certainly a lot of folks that are the decision makers, and we're working on it. That's what I can assure you. The only other thing I'd ask is when you talk about bills that failed, it'd be helpful that if you had if it was an individual bill or a committee bill, that would be really good to know, because it kind of, with changing leadership, things change, and with that also. But thank you for the opportunity to comment, Mr. President, members of the commission.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate your input.
Mr. President, got a couple of words too. Yeah,
Okay.
the interesting thing that we seen this year was the involvement between the other agencies, the WAM and the county commissioners, that really wasn't there in the past. I think we're seeing that there's an issue out there and we need to get on top of this. And I'm very hopeful that a lot of these bills will be back, a little more fine tuning to them, but I think they'll have a better shot. And unfortunately, the next session is a 2/3 majority to get introduced. So that is going to add another nuance in there, but don't give up. I think we're onto something now, and we're finally see that there is an issue out there and we've got to get a handle on this, so.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Representative Buck. Anybody else? Real quickly before we move on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my name is Carter Napier. I work for the city of Casper and am a member of WAM and in the leadership of WAM at this moment. I just want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to be a partner in that discussion with respect to what the senator and the good representative said. I can tell you that having the opportunity to visit about this issue, particularly with respect to the concerns that the city of Casper has acutely with regard to being able to have some control of our destiny in regards to these issues is very important to us. And I certainly pledge my personal involvement if it's of interest to the commission and to the legislature, as hopefully we can move forward in this next session, albeit a bit of a higher standard for a budget session to have this discussion heard. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to partner on this important issue.
Thank you. Is there someone left on the panel that would like to speak, or we?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for letting us come today and see what's going on with you guys and listen to your side of the story, and then you listening to us. We greatly appreciate it. We do need help. The legislature knows that. And Sheridan and Casper, I know, will be right there listening and trying to do what we can to help out. We all need to work together on this, along with the Gaming Commission and the casino. We don't have a problem with it. We just all need to work together and get this right.
Thank you. I don't think we have casinos, just point of interest. We have one. Commissioner Wildcat. You know that. All right, so we will move on unless there's something further. And I apologize, and I thank you guys for tolerating my Zoom calling. As you guys know, this is my last meeting as the president, so I didn't want to miss it. So we will move on to Live Racing Breeders' Award. Is that correct, Nick?
President Broussard, that is correct. So item 11E is the Live Racing and then a Breeders' Award update. Page 297 in your packet,
Okay.
You will see the Wyoming Gaming Commission recommended staff for the 2025 race season. Mr. Tony Langford would be the presiding steward. He was the presiding steward last year for 2 of the 3 tracks. Mr. Tom Davis, he'll be a new addition to the group of stewards this year. He comes with a pretty extensive history of stewarding. Mr. Dave Wheeler has been a steward for the state of Wyoming for several years. Denny Wirtz would be our safety officer. He's been in that role for a couple of years now. He's done a fantastic job. And then Dr. Daniel Erickson would be the commission vet. He's served that role for 16 years or so. Equine Risk Management would be the contract holder for the pre-race track safety inspections as required by rule. Mr. President, so I would be looking for a motion to approve the Wyoming Gaming Commission recommended race meet officials list.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Do we have a motion to approve? Yep.
Mr.
Go ahead.
President, Commissioner
Ritholder.
I'd make a motion to approve the staff as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Thank you. Any discussion, any questions? Not hearing any, we will call the vote. All in favor of approving the staff list as presented by Director Laramundi, say aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, say no. All right, that passed. Thank you, Nick.
President Broussard, with the approval of equine risk management for the pre-race track safety inspections, I just wanted to make sure that, we've been working with them prior to, and they have sent us a recommended date to do inspections. I know that they've already worked with Mr. Greer. If I'm correct, or if I'm wrong, correct me. They're going to begin the inspections at Energy Downs April 21st through the 25th. They would like to do the Wyoming Downs inspections June 9th through the 13th. Sweetwater Downs, they recommended July 28th through August 1st. We're going to reach out to them and just have a discussion about that one. Sweetwater Downs gets access to the track on the 4th of August, so that's a little problematic. And then Thunder Plains, they are recommending dates of August 24th through the 28th to complete their safety inspections at that time. This doesn't require any commission action, but we'll work with the contract holder and the vendor on this and get these scheduled and done and report back anything that we need to report back on these.
Appreciate that, Nick. Do we have anything further on the live racing?
Mr. President, that's all for the live racing. And then Ms. Koltiska will briefly go over the Breeders' Awards payouts that have been done.
All right, thank you, Brandy. You can give us an update.
Thank you, President Broussard and Commissioners. If you could, I would like to start first. We just finished up the performance measures for the Wyoming Breeders' Award program with a comparison chart that that's in the packet. This is really to be more transparent and kind of show the growth of the program and where we're at. And there's just a couple things I wanted to go over with this report for. So as you can see, our accreditation revenues since 2020 to 2024 has significantly went up from 22 up. And you'll see that there's a variation in the accreditation fees. And a lot of that varies because of the yearlings and weanlings. If we get a lot of weanlings, then the next year we won't get quite as many yearlings. So those numbers will fluctuate, so that really shouldn't be the main goal here. It's more of when you go down to like the number of races. So on the second page, the racing performances, you'll see the number of Wyoming breds earning points at the track. It started off in 2020 going from 226, then the next year 270, up to 312, then 369, and then last year we topped 435. So what that is representing is that as far as the Breeders' Awards program, each year you're seeing more and more Wyoming breds earning points. And what that really means is the Wyoming bred program is getting more and more horses entered into the program that are eligible to run. As you realize, when you get a horse accredited as a yearling or weanling, you still have 2 years before you're going to see those numbers at the racetrack. So, but that's where it's showing those. But one of the interesting things is that the numbers of Wyoming bred races did start to rise, but then last year we had 105, or the 2023, we had 105 Wyoming bred races that were actually run at Wyoming tracks. And then only 112 ran this year, which is only, a handful of more races. Whereas you can see we have a lot more horses running. So kind of what that shows is that, we still need to, and the operators and us, we need to still kind of watch that the Wyoming breds are being protected and the races are being run to support the number of Wyoming breds that are actually starting. With that being said, I think all of them are riding a lot of races. We do statutorily, they have to ride a Wyoming quarter horse and a Wyoming thoroughbred daily. And if those races fill, they have to take them. So, but eventually, if, you know, with just only a handful more, but then you have, you know, 60 horses more and you're not riding any more races, then of course you're gonna have Wyoming breds that aren't getting a chance to run. I don't see that really happening too hard yet, but it will eventually, if we don't keep, you know, protecting our Wyoming breds, that will eventually start happening. So this report will be a good indicator of that. So we can keep that. This is on the website now. It's good, you know, information for our operators, for people kind of wanting to know the growth or where we're at in the Wyoming bred program, and shows the stability that we are having with that. So like I said, that's for anybody that wants to see it on the website, as far as the Wyoming bred stuff. So moving on from that, unless anybody has any questions regarding the performance report. Okay, hearing none, I'll move on. So this year in 2024, you know, we hit 8.5 million, which the year before we only paid 6.9. Huge increase in those. So what I did is I provided a list for you. We finalized the 2024 breeders payout. We had 435 people that 435 represents the owners, breeders, and stallion owners awards of recipients that got, that had accredited Wyoming breds that participated in 2024. As you can see on this list, the top 25 people on that list earned in the triple digits, all over 100,000. The top person from Grable, Wyoming made $346,760.96. Life-changing numbers. The top, I think the top 10 are all from Wyoming. You know, Rick Hillstead from Afton, 322,000. Gerald Call from Sheridan, 304,000. Dan Lee from Riverton, 286,000. TM Quarter Horses, Shoshone, 282,000. Broken Bones from Lander, 253,000. As you can see, these are all over the state. So this shows that what we're doing is benefiting these people around the state of Wyoming, which is amazing to see, and those numbers are amazing. One of the things I also did is I know that people want to see how the awardees are by state, so I concluded that to let you know where we're paying out these awards. The highest awards went to Utah at 106 people from Utah got paid, which is a 42% of the total number. But what we have to realize is it's not so much the breeders that are Utah breeders. These are owners. So basically our Wyoming breds are being marketed at Utah people. So the Utah and Idaho people are buying these horses and running them. So I think that's very interesting. In the majority of the 82 people getting awards, which is 33% of the total number, those are basically legitimate breeders, that the breeders in the state. So I thought those numbers were very interesting. The median award distribution was $13,122.20. So that kind of, a lot of times they use median prices in the horse market to see kind of, you know, where they're at. But out of the awards distributed, you know, at least half of them made over 13 and half of them made below. So I thought that was a great number to show you guys. And then a lot of people are saying, well, how many people in Wyoming? That's why I wanted to show where they were from, what city, state, because I think it matters. So the people in these jurisdictions and the representatives and senators can kind of see, oh, like, look, this is, you know, this is important to our residents, especially in my county. These guys are getting a lot of money. So Fremont County being one, like where Mr. Kerr is from, you know, a lot of those people there, we have quite a few from that area. So that was interesting to see. Just an update, the checks have started being distributed. Everything's at the state auditor's office. Last week was the first round, so they are working on getting all these checks out. So we're right on target for that, and we're a month and a half away from live racing to where all these awards start accumulating again. So everything is on the website, everything's transparent. Like Nick said, we've changed the accreditation forms, you know, from people saying, well, they don't understand them. We've taken all of those suggestions and combined them. Nick has, you know, done a great job of helping us get all that back up, as far as the PDFs and stuff like that. So, and people have said they're very appreciative that we're, you know, taking the forms instead of confusing them, trying to make them more user-friendly, and stuff like that. So I really think that we're very transparent on what we're doing. And hopefully we can just, you know, keep going forward on that. But the breeders program is alive and well. By looking at we just got the condition book from Energy Downs. They've, you know, they're supposed to write one quarter horse and one thoroughbred a day. Some of theirs, I've seen 3 quarter horses in their card for accredited breds, for just quarter horses and then 1 thoroughbred. So that they're actually going above what's even asked of them on that. I haven't seen Wyoming Downs or the others, but I do know that 307 is doing that, which I know the horsemen are appreciative. I think it's great, which we need to have outside horses come in, but we do need to be mindful to help with the Wyoming breds, making sure that they get opportunities to run, even though our racetracks are getting more popular, more people coming from out of state because the purses are so high, which is great. We want that, but we have to protect our Wyoming bred. So anyways, with that, that's all I have for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandy. Okay. Any comments or questions for Brandy before we move on to item 11F? I don't see any hands on Zoom. I'm guessing Cactus, are we good over there?
All good.
Okay, thank you. All right, Nick, who needs to address 11 Foxtrot?
Mr. President, 11F is the annual conflict of interest form. We did that a little different this year. We built it as a submittable and signable and verifiable PDF online. I believe you all received the email where you could click the buttons and sign it yourself. I believe that is all done. Have we received all of them back? Okay, so those are all complete. So the annual conflict of interest forms have been signed by all of the commissioners for this year.
All right, thank you.
And staff as well, yes, and staff.
Thank you. That's a weight off my shoulders. All right. We'll move to 11 golf, what we've been all waiting for, the excitement. We're opening up to elect new officers. And if, since I'm the president, I get to speak first, and I'd like to nominate, I'd like to open up the nomination process, but I'd like to also open it up by nominating Cactus or Commissioner Covello for president. Do we have any other nominations for president? Okay. Nick, do you see any activity over there that would need my attention?
I do not, Mr. President.
All right. So just want to make sure we shall formalize the vote. So if we can have a roll call vote, that would be great. So this is voting for Commissioner Covello as president.
Mr. President, did we have a second on that?
Mr. President,
We need.
make a second on the motion.
Okay.
And
Is it a motion or are we just electing officials?
I'd make a motion to close nominations and elect unanimous ballot for Commissioner Covello.
Thank you. All right. Any comments or questions? All right, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Cactus as president, say aye.
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 Aye. If we have anyone opposed, say no.
I'll abstain.
Yeah, you're gonna pay for that. All right, thank you. Congratulations, Cactus. Now we'll open up the nomination process for vice, yeah. We'll open up the nomination process for vice president.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Ruben Ritholler for vice president.
Good choice. Any other nominations for vice president? Not
Mr.
seeing any.
President.
Would we have a motion? Yep,
I move that nomination
Mr.
cease.
Kerr, go ahead. Got it. Any, do we second? Do we need a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I know there should be some comments about Ruben, but are there any?
Be all good too.
All right, so seeing no comments or questions, we will move to the vote. All in favor of approving Ruben as our vice president, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, say no. Beautiful. Congratulations, Ruben. All right. Okay, now, moving on, do we need to go into executive session? I know
President
there was
Broussard,
an email.
President Broussard, we do have an executive session item. The commission, I would ask for a motion to have the commission enter into executive session pursuant to Wyoming Statute 614-405A, number 6, to receive information confidential by law, classified confidential by law. Number 9, sorry, not 6.
And Mr. President, just a matter of order, if we could discuss this before we do that. I wonder if we could do that and then move item 13 till after lunch so that folks could go ahead and leave. We could have lunch, and then when we come back, we could finish this up so they're not coming back for a little bit, and then we break for lunch.
Yeah, good idea.
Your pleasure, sir.
When we come back from lunch, Cactus, you will be the official president because I have to leave. But just want to say, I'll go to an executive session with you guys and then probably won't come back.
Mr. President?
Unless that's problematic. Yeah, so we need to make a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. President, I'd make that motion.
Is that what you're doing, Commissioner?
Yes, I'm making that motion, and I just want to say that I really enjoyed your administration as our president, and I want you to understand that you were appreciated.
Here, here.
I'm sure
Oh.
Cactus might be able to improve on it.
Or not.
Or maybe not, but you were
Yeah.
appreciated. That's all I had, and I'd make the motion
Well,
for the stupid executive session.
All right, thank you. Is there if I weren't sunburned, I'd be blushing right now. I appreciate it. So, so we have a second. Do we have a second to go into a second on the motion?
Mr. President,
Yep.
Commissioner Rittoler, I will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ritholer. All right, any conversation or question before we vote on the?
President Broussard, is this
Yep.
to include moving 13 up to now so they don't have to come back after for the working session? It's just a quick discussion, I believe, on the dates, right?
Do we need to add it? Do we need to add an amendment to the motion? Or is that something separate? Because we can do that. Do we need to even have a motion to say we're going to move that item to after lunch?
No.
I'm okay with it.
We do not. Mr. President, we do not need a motion for that.
Okay.
Okay, so we will just we're going to choose to break for lunch after the executive session and come back to item 13. So carrying on with, we have a motion to go into executive session and we have a second. And I don't see any discussion about that, so we'll call the vote. All in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Does anyone opposed, say no? All right, thank you. So we will now do some magic and get us all into the executive session mode.
We'll kick this back off at 1 o'clock.
No, we're moving into executive session.